District, Marion County Superior Court, case number CIV 1702295, and that was information only. Next item we discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, Employee Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers. Information only. Last item we discussed was pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, insurance claim 584176, so we give direction.
We denied the claim for that one. Is that what you're?
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on item 3D, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, insurance claim 584176, the board denied the claim. On a motion made by Trustee Miller and seconded by Trustee Gasson, the board denied the claim. We'll make sure we get that read out.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on, we want to approve our agenda this evening. Everything stands as is.
I will move approval of tonight's agenda.
Okay, so first by Trustee Nell.
Second.
A second by Trustee Miller. All those in favor to approve our agenda? 7-0. Okay, so now tonight is a very special night and bittersweet as well. We're going to take some time to honor our retiring board member, Trustee Tom Cooper. He's been serving on this board for 13 years. I want to say a few words to you, and we'll do some recognition and go from there. So, on December 4th of 2007, you were sworn in as the newest trustee right here in this building for Nevada Unified School District Board of Education, replacing our outgoing trustee, Aaron Brown, as he is on our retiree wall up there. And that's where he will be placed eventually. Your daughters, Megan and Sarah, were I think in middle and high school at the time when you joined the board. Tonight you leave as a veteran trustee serving 13 years, which includes several hundred board meetings, countless hours sitting at this table, and as well as attending workshops, committees, open houses, back to school nights. The list is endless. You have served with 4 superintendents and 10 trustees. Some of us were here in 2007, so you get sworn in. You are dependable, thoughtful, calm, always prepared, and a continuous learner. You have represented the qualities of an effective trustee by supporting teaching, learning for all of our students, supporting the needs of the whole student, and the importance of community input and maintaining a responsible budget. So much can be celebrated, it would be impossible to list everything, so I haven't listed it. You know what they are, we know what they are. We've done amazing work here with you on this board. It's been a great teamwork, team effort. And to our Nevada community, you were well represented as trustee representing the community of Nevada. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to present you with this plaque in your honor of 13 years. We also wanted to highlight some of your leadership positions. Yes, giving your board, you were a board president for two years, 2010-11 and 16-17, and your leadership role as Marin County School Boards Association board president for 2 years as well. And you were a long-standing Golden Bell committee member, I think from the very beginning.
Forever.
Yeah. So, in honor of your service, here you go. Thank you so much. So what I would like to do is just have our trustees say something. Trustee Miller, do you want to say that? Just kind of go around.
It's been an absolute honor working with you, and what I appreciate most about you is, on one hand, you have children in the school, and you have been very personal and connected to the teachers that are involved in delivering the program, but you also have taken the time as a businessman in this community to reach out and make sure that the community that we serve as a school district has a window and an opportunity to have their views and interests heard, and you've always been faithful in bringing those back, so the conversation at this table and in this district has reflected the broader community's interests, not just parents, but the people without kids in the school, or the people with kids in other schools, but it's a whole community, and you've been able to bring that together, and I think you have done an amazing job at serving this community, and I'm pleased to be sitting next to you for the last decade, 13 years?
13 years, yeah.
decade plus.
Thank you, Russ.
You're welcome.
Miss
Tom, I hate to see you go.
you.
3 words: steady, calm, and kind. That's absolutely apply to you.
I'll take them off.
But I think we first met way back in Riptide when you were the lead timer and I was the DJ. And that was fun. Those are good times, and got to know how good you think you were at managing a very large group of people and kids. And was really happy to see you get on the board. And then once I got on, I really appreciated your calming influence on things, your ability to really just kind of distill and find the path that works best for everybody, and not just, and without really asking us to give up much. I mean, so really appreciate your calming influence, and sit next to me. We share a lot of notes.
Thanks. Thank you.
But we're gonna miss you.
Thank you. Ditto.
Yes, we are going to miss you. It's been an honor to serve with you, and I certainly agree with what's been said about your influence on the board. I've been admire you for your calmness and your ability to work towards a consensus and to see things objectively. So it's been very very helpful for me to work with you over the years. I know that the president didn't want to list things, but I do. I think since we've been on the board together, we've been through a lot. 2 bond facilities, we've gone through 2 recessions now, a pandemic. We've had a lot of successes along the way, and adoption of Common Core. We transferred from a revenue limit system to a local control funding formula system. And the reason I'm listening to these things is because it's important, because I think the community, the school district, and the community benefit from our success at these things. And I don't think you could have done it without you. You're truly a good leader, and you're magnanimous about it. And I think this community owes you a gratitude and a big thank you for what you've done for us. And I know you're going to be around.
Yeah. Thank you,
Continue to
Derek.
talk.
I appreciate those comments.
Sure.
I think they've well captured everything that I've come to find out about you. I think the one word I would add would be genuine. And I've just tremendously appreciated the kindness that you've shown me as I get up to speed with this new role. And, we don't get to interact outside of the boardrooms. It's a hard, but I do remember fondly walking on going to the groundbreaking over at San Marin High School and walking on tours and stuff with you. And I just forever grateful for you setting an example for me as I come onto this role. So thank you. Great. You will definitely be missed.
Thanks, guys.
So I just wanted to say, Tom, that, you're very special, and Novato has really benefited much from you. And you have been just an asset to this board, and you've been a great role model. And again, you're tranquil, you're objective, and you serve, and you give useful input, and you've been a great leader, and we're going to miss you totally. And but more importantly, besides you watching out for our Novato students, you're able to do that and yet be kind. And when my mom passed away, I didn't expect any board member to show up, but you were the only one that showed up, and it was just something that you didn't have to do, nobody needed to do, but you were there. And yet you, through all these years, you've been we need more Toms.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you. You'll be missed.
Oh, boy, this is hard.
So, Tom, there's a famous movie quote that says, "You make me want to be a better man." And I'm using it in a different context, but it's the truth. When I work with Tom Cooper, you make me want to be a better man, a better leader, a better person. And you bring so much to everything that you do, so much kindness, so much thoughtfulness. And this isn't the end. is the end of this chapter, but there will be more
I
chapters.
promise too.
I'm glad that I've had this time to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. The feeling is definitely mutual.
This goes with the plaque.
Oh, thank you.
We're gonna give you that.
Thank you.
So, thank you, everybody, for saying something. That was great. Going back to your 4 superintendents, you've heard from 1. We have Superintendent Jim Hogaboom up on the. Hey. Hopefully you can hear us.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, and if you'd like to say a few words, that would be great.
Yeah, I miss you guys. Well, hey, Tom, the biggest difference now is that you were a young dude and now you're an older dude 13 years later, I think is the biggest difference. But, you actually were the epitome, I think, of what a school board member should be. You're caring and kind and fair. You didn't have any particular specific issues. You were always open-minded and willing to listen to all sides of the story, and a great listener. You always were genuinely interested in what other people had to say, whether that was other board members or staff members or teachers. You're always positive and supportive. You looked at the big picture. I mean, I know Chris will agree that you were just, you're almost like the perfect board member. I hate to admit to you, but more than that, you're just a great guy. You're fun to hang out with. You're somebody that's fun to go get a beer with, and I really miss you, and I really want to thank you for all your years of great service. And now you got some little more time for your sailing adventures and to see your daughters. I know that Jan Derby was probably your all-time second favorite superintendent, but speaking as you've told me, your favorite superintendent, I just want to thank you for your years of service and miss you. So good luck in your retirement.
Thank you, Jim. You're awesome. What a nice surprise for you to pop into our meeting, and feeling is so mutual. And I don't want to rank any superintendents at this point. I'm not even going to go there. But there's number 1 over here. No. Thank you, Jim.
I did reach out to Jan, and she was going to join us, but something popped up at the last minute, and she just was unable.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you, Jim.
Her husband's still on her part. I know she's going to probably reach out to you later on.
Oh, okay. Good.
So if a student reached out to us. Her name was Sarah. You know Sarah?
I do happen to know Sarah.
Yeah, okay. Well, we have a little video that she has actually put together, and we're going to get that going here. Sarah's up on the screen. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Dad. I didn't know if you saw me. I don't know how this works. This owl thing is very fancy for us teachers over here in Sacramento. So I did
see you just fine. What a nice surprise, sweetie.
Oh, there's more to it. You hold on to your hat, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, here we go.
You're probably thinking, why is my daughter on my school board meeting? Well, I have a surprise for you. 13 years is no joke. So, to congratulate you and thank you for everything you've done, I asked a couple friends to say hi.
At a time when some of us feel alone, I am certain I'm not alone in holding a tremendous amount of admiration and gratitude for you, Tom Cooper. Thank you for the many years you have served as a board member for the Nevada Unified School District. Wow. I wish you the very best as you now move forward, and congratulations.
Hey, Tom Cooper. Thank you for your many years of service to the Nevada Unified School District as a trustee. It's meant a great deal to us, teachers, administrators, and most of all, students. And as a former student of mine once said at Hill Middle School, "Hey, Mr. Sundberg, is that your dad?" A lot of you out of that. Happy retirement from the NUSD from your son, Rob. Take care.
We just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on campus at Novato High School, whether it was events or back to school night or open house. We just really appreciate you being there to support us.
You're still my favorite person to come by during open house, and make sure to come by my classroom. When Sarah was my student, as well as now as Sarah is a teacher, your journey in education has been long, but it's been incredibly important, and we thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Dad. I also wanted to get on here and say thank you and congratulations for your 13 years of service. That's a pretty big achievement, so nice job. I also wanted to tell you how special this has been to me the last 13 years being on the school board. It is so cool having a dad on the school board, not only when I was a student, but now as a teacher. It is so nice to have someone to talk to who gets everything that I'm going through, and someone that cares as much as I do and just understands everything. So thank you for everything that you've done, and that I know that you're going to continue to do even off the board. I'm really proud of you, Dad, and I love you, and I can't wait to see you and celebrate in person.
So I'm so excited to get the chance to congratulate Tom Cooper. Tom, you're the best. We appreciate so much your involvement as a trustee in Marin County. 13 years in Novato, you rock. You did so much at a county-wide level. But what I consider to be your greatest gift, and the greatest gift you've given to our community and our community's children, is your kindness. You are one of the most positive, compassionate people that I've had the chance to interact with, no matter how hard the issue, no matter what the challenge is. You always looked at something as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to figure out what to do in the best interest of students. So, Tom Cooper, you knocked it out of the park. I look forward to working with you in the future. Bye, Tom.
Would you like to say a few words?
I would. Sarah, thanks for throwing that video together, putting that together. That was
You're
so
welcome. If teaching doesn't work out, I can always go into tech.
You know it's going to work out. Thank you to everybody. Your comments are heartfelt, and I really enjoyed my time here in Novato Unified. I've enjoyed working with every single one of you and others who have gone on to other better, bigger things, I suppose. But you're a group of caring people and doing a lot of really good things, and your heart's in the right place in this district. Granted, we don't always agree. I'm sure we've had a couple instances where I haven't always agreed with you, but nonetheless, I respect you. So, and I've learned something along the way from each and every one of you. So, I do have to say that when I didn't read over the full board report tonight, for obvious reasons, I didn't really need to, but I did find under the personal action report, I found it a little troubling. It said retirement. And then under there, my name was there, and I thought, wait a minute, I feel really old right now. I feel like this is pretty final. So that was quite troubling. Some of the past event things that rise to some accomplishments that we have made as a district, as Trustee Nell has noted, there's a couple crossovers, but Measure G, the bond measure, we're doing some awesome capital projects in this district now, and we're going to continue to do those in the years to come. The 2009 parcel tax, my goodness, that's when it comes to finances in a district, at least here, parcel tax plays such an important role in our financial fiscal health. So I sure hope we continue on that. That was a good one. The dual immersion program at Linwood School, that was awesome. It was the first, as I believe, in all of Marin County, right? And I love that program. What a great way to serve our families. We've developed solar projects in the within our district, and we're saving money. Let's see. You mentioned Common Core state standards and LCAP, and I guess it's one of the LCAPs because there's not another LCAP. And the LCFF that went along with that. STEM Marin at St. Marin High, STEM at Novato High, and we've got some really amazing lights at St. Marin. I'm really excited about it. And I can't wait to flip that switch. I hope you have me when that happens. The hardest part of leaving this post that I've been on for 13 years is I've developed some very awesome relationships with educators, not only within this district, but as Mary Jane mentioned, within the county. I'm going to miss all those people, working with them, alongside of them continuously. So that part is going to be really hard. I do want to say that I will be in touch. And I want to say just a brief, quick comment about this team we have at Nevada Unified. We are an amazing group of people, not only in this room, district-wide. We've got a lot of such amazing things going on in this district. So I hope that all continues on, and I have no reason to doubt that it won't. You know, from our teachers in the classroom, classified employees, the wonderful employees, dedicated employees that work in this building, although right now they're probably not working in the building because of the pandemic, and of course our great superintendent. So thank you to everybody in this district. It's been an honor working with you. And finally, I want to say, sorry it's so long-winded, it probably is, but it's my chance. It's my last chance. Yeah, so now that Tuesday evenings are going to be freed up, I'm going to have some free time on my hands. I guess I'll be checking in with you guys periodically and watching you from the couch and cheering you guys on. And I'm sure I'll be around in some capacity or other. So best of luck to you guys in the district in the future. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with and for this district. It's an amazing place. The leader. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Take your yellow.
That was painful.
Stay there for a couple of years.
Thank you, Sarah and Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Yeah.
I really want to do a hug.
We'll give you a hug after the back and go out.
Yes.
Yeah, about 2 years. Right? We'll schedule a meeting in June.
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Russ. I appreciate it.
All right. Good job. Thank you. Talk.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so that went really well. I mean, I hope that was a great send-off for him. And we will continue to move forward in our board meeting. We're going to move on to, this is our oath of office with our new board member and returning board member. So we'll have Julie, excuse me, Jacobson. She's going to come up here and just stand where Tom is. And we have our Marin County Superintendent. Yes. Mary Jane Burke is here this evening to swear us in, which she's always here every 4 years, every 2 years.
Exactly.
All right, so we will all stand. Let's keep can you stay in our spot? So we're keeping our distance. Just stay in. Julie's going to stand here. I'm going to stand here. Perfect. We have trustee Max, Miller, Julie, and myself.
Yes, congratulations, everybody. So picture 5 terms, 8 terms, 2 terms, ready to go. So get ready,
No
you're
pressure.
ready, right? So just to each of you, and I think to you particularly, Julie, just know you're joining an amazing, as described, an amazing team. I've had the opportunity to work with this district for many years, like 27, so not as many as him, but a lot, right? And just the note is that there's never been a wavering on what's best for kids. I mean, truly. And that, I think, is the hallmark of this district. Others have heard me say, but for you to hear me say, how the way Nevada goes the rest of our county. And you have the biggest district, the most children, the most, the diversity, along with additional challenges to finance, et cetera. So just know that, they talk about how California goes the rest of the country. Well, absolutely, how things happen for this district and these children, which you all lead, makes a difference countywide. So to each of you, thanks for what you've been doing. To those of you that continue way up came on, right? Thank you so much. And then the other thing is 7-member board. So that's a whole other dynamic, right? It's a lot of people. 4 votes sometimes is a lot of votes, right? So just know that it's just amazing. And to all of you, I do want to say that please don't forget when you get home, whoever's at home, if anybody, friends, family, thank them. Because this is a family affair, and each of you know it's not just you, it's your whole family, right? And I know that you all know how important it is that you provide direct support to your superintendent and all your leaders, because in the end of the story, they're the ones right there in that front line. And they're on the front line right now, doing everything they can to get our kids safely back in person. So congratulations to all of you on that. At some point, someone might say, "Whoa, Nevada's behind," and I would say, "You're way ahead. You're right there, right?" And so just know that the state is also watching you related to being able to achieve what's been achieved in this district as it relates to in-person opportunities. And so this is how this will go. Everyone's going to raise their right hand. Okay, and stand really tall. I'm excited. All right, and then I'll ask each of you, and we'll go in this order, to say your name, and then I'll ask you to follow with me. Okay, so I, Debbie Butler, Julie Jacobson,
Ross Millerick.
Greg Mack.
great, do solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution.
That I will support and defend the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States.
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this oath freely.
That I take this oath freely
Without any mental reservation.
without any mental reservations
Or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
And that I will well and faithfully
Discharge the duties.
discharge the duties
Upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So each trustee will have a signature on that piece of paper in front, and Mary Jane's gonna sign it.
I'll keep one.
Here's the one for.
Very good.
Love it.
How long did you go through?
Hey, turn, oh my God.
The kids are worth it.
I know they are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Nice to see you again.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, you too. Tonight, I had the opportunity to swear in 6 boards tonight. It's been great. But this is my only one in person. There you go. There's another place you're leaving.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say. You're welcome, Chrissy, tomorrow. But goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for coming personally.
So Julie, you ready for this stuff?
We're ready.
Here we go.
Okay, we're good?
We're good.
We're good.
All right.
Fine, dude.
Now, so much going on this evening. All right, so we will now move on. This is also the meeting that we do our reorganization of the board, which is the nominations for board president and vice president. So I will go right into, I will take nominations for our new board president.
Madam President, I would like to nominate Trustee Ross Milrick to be president.
Okay, second. All right, so we have a first by Trustee Nell, a second by Trustee Aguila to nominate Trustee Milrick as our new board president. All those in favor? 7-0. All right, so now we do musical chairs. Kate, you got your name. I am out of here.
So as you're sharing, I don't know, this.
Let me run over there.
Debbie, as you get out of here, Maria has some words that she'd like to share with you.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, Trustee Butler, I just wanted to thank you for being president and being, first of all, being a member of the board and being president for so many years. You did it from 2008, 2009, and 2014 and 15, and then 2017, 18, 19, and 2021. So that's a lot of time. And like Mary Jane first said, this is like a family too. So, and again, we want to thank your husband and your daughter for sharing you with us and all the hard work you put, all these years you've helped with the Marin County School Board Association. You've been part of that committee and the Marin County Council PTA liaison. So you've supported parent leadership and you've helped with the youth truth surveys and you've helped establishing a foundation for NUSD funding and budget through the district advisory committee, the LCAP committee. So thank you for that, for being part of that. And you've been in the health benefit committee. So you help take care of the staff here as well. You've been trustee of the year, just thank you so much for your leadership. I know I can speak for everybody here on the board that we're all amazed at how your organizational skills and it's really just admirable. So thank you so much for all that you've done, and all the time that you've helped and you served, and you've been here to support us and guide us and to lead our children the right direction. So thank you so much, and appreciate again, I appreciate Trustee Miller for stepping up, and I just we wanted to give you a little something too.
Oh, thank you.
And we can't hug, but
no. Thank you so much. It was very nice.
This is your pack.
Oh,
coming your way. And
thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure serving as president these last 3 years. I enjoy doing it. If I have the time, I enjoy doing it. I want to make sure that this board is, we're doing the right thing for students, and we are. And we have to follow a lot of little, procedures and protocols and rules, and that's a real importance to me that we, are doing all of that. So I've enjoyed it, and I'm happy to do it. So thank you.
So yeah, Debbie, your plaque is coming. You have a sample there of what is on it. Supply chain disruptions, the year 2020, right?
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your service. As I shared in the card that you may or may not have seen yet from me, you've made me a better leader and a better superintendent by the way you've been a board president. You've helped me to learn how to be a superintendent. You've taken me under your wing, and I had some of the expertise, but not all of it. And you've helped to polish that part of me that didn't have it. So I'll just always be so appreciative of you and your support during these first 2 years of my superintendency. And I look forward to many more.
Yes, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Jumping in front of everybody. So as far as I'm concerned, you're the president, because you've been the president for most of the years I've been here. Thank goodness for me. because you've been a great leader. As you know, I call you for advice at times and, you know, try to figure out what's going on. And you're a calming influence, just like Tom. I'm glad you're still there. Absolutely. And I hope I can sit next to you. But at the same time, really appreciate everything you've done beyond just what people see in this room. The president does a lot of work that folks outside don't know. And it's not easy. And I really appreciate that. I mean, all the stuff that you have to do towards the end of the year, as we know, it's a gargantuan task. And I really appreciate everything you've done in that regard. So thank you for doing it so many years. 4 of my 5 years, yeah, well, 6. So great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I was just thinking as Greg was talking that I'm sure you'll have a little bit of a break from me too, because I know that I've asked so much, but you've been such a great person for me as I, coming into this, that I felt so comfortable being able to say, hey, what's this? I don't understand this. And you were always so gracious about helping me through all that and understanding what direction and setting such a good example. And as you said, I mean, you're the only president I've known for these past 2 years, and seeing how organized and in all the little details that make things go so much smoother and organized has been just so much easier to get used to everything that goes on. There's so much to learn, and having all that knowledge you have. And I remember a couple of times you'd have everything so organized. You go, oh, it's right here. And I'm usually the most organized person in the room. And to see somebody that's even more, in fact, I do plan to ping you a couple of times about getting organized and some other things that I now need to really focus on. Because quite honestly, you were so good, I didn't worry about being organized, because I knew if I didn't know where something was or something, I just always knew that this is where it was, and it's easy. So thank you. Greatly appreciated the role that you've set.
Thank you. All right, let's move on.
I'll be quick. I want to thank you, Debbie. You've just been a solid president, and I'm so appreciative of the work that you did. It was a relief to know you were there when things happened. I just thought, that's not me. No, I'm kidding. But it was good. I felt like you would have a hand on it. And I think it's important to recognize your abilities with us working together, build some consensus, show leadership. I think it's tough to be the president, and I know there's been times when you've had to bite your tongue in the name of parliamentary control and trying to keep things going, and you didn't get a chance to say what you wanted to say. But I always respected your opinions and what you were trying to accomplish. And I think it's just been a pleasure working with you. I look forward to working with you now without the governorship of parliamentarian and having to gavel us and stuff like that. So just a terrific job. I'm so happy to have been able to work with you over these years. I look forward to continuing.
Thank you. Appreciate all the nice comments.
So I guess, Julie, if you want to say something now.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Debbie's been very welcome. Thank you.
Debbie, thank you. It's for the last 3 years we've been strained on leadership and with lots of issues at the district, and you have, to the benefit of every child in this community, stepped up and served multiple terms. Thank you very much. And with that has come your even-handedness and your willingness to hear issues, and I'll create an environment where we as a board of 7 can sit down with the superintendent and work through disagreements or differences, and at the end, come to a working plan that then the staff can implement and this district can deliver to the children of Nevada. And that is no small feat. And I want to thank you personally for being that even-handed voice, and I will attempt to do as well as you have for the next 12 months as we move forward through some more challenging times for this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. President Miller.
So with that, I think we're ready to move on to the next order of business, which is the election of a board vice president. And do I have a nomination? Marie?
Yeah, I nominate Trustee Gasson for vice president.
Thanks very much.
Board.
Do I have a second? Second by Trustee Mack. Any other comments? And if not, we'll vote on trustee Gasson for the vice president of the board of trustees. All in favor of trustee Gasson? It's a,
Yeah.
if you're not voting, you're 7-0. Yeah, 7-0. Trustee Gasson, welcome to your new duties. I think you need to change.
Are we moving?
No,
back?
go ahead. Ellen's in charge.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
sure.
Yep.
And then Maria, you have to pick your vice president. You're just your name.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You're doing it, Debbie, you're not the president.
Sit back.
Whatever. Ellen, we're counting on you to have this.
You have your cookies. I don't know where they came from.
It came from Elizabeth DeRubo.
Thank you for the cookies.
Came from the Mustang.
Still out
Cookies
there.
from the Mustang.
I hope you like the cookies.
So the next action
So
is.
before we move on to the next action, I would like to say, thank you. If that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. I would like to say thank you to trustee Aguila for her years of service as the vice president. I've had the last couple opportunity to work closely with trustee Aguila over the last couple of years as she served the role of vice president. She has worked so hard to make sure she understood all of the things, all the processes and procedures that we were going through, making sure we were representative of everyone in our community, making sure that she knew how to be the best president when her time came. And really, she worked so hard, asked all the right questions, been committed to that work. And in the end, her circumstances didn't allow for her to make that commitment. And we appreciate that. It wasn't for a lack of effort and caring and trying. And so I just want to thank you, Maria, for your years of service as the vice president.
Thank you, Maria, for serving with me and being my partner in crime. If I didn't catch it, you caught it. We were tag team together and agenda planning and just sitting at the table together and asking me. You were always like, what about this? What about that? So you kept me on my toes, and I appreciated that very much. Thank you for your service for the 3 years and as or 2 years, I think it was. And as Superintendent Koska said, you're being honest and understanding, balancing your family and this role and stepping aside when you thought it was important. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for continuing your service on this school board. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other comments? Trustee.
Maria, thanks for serving as vice president. You've been instrumental for me as a trustee, being on the leadership. If I had questions about agenda planning and what was happening and I wanted to talk to somebody about it, you were there and willing to talk about it and help process what was going on from the inside. So I really appreciated that and respect the work that you've done for us and wanted to show that by expressing my appreciation and thank you for doing it.
I just wanted to say, I think a lot of people don't know us independently, the community, but you were the most thoughtful person. I remember when I first came on, you were just really trying to help me acclimate and give me guidance and things that I need. I just still remember talking about the blue room and, giving me these little hints and tips to, how I can be better in terms of knowing what I was supposed to be doing. So, and always a kind thought from you has gone a long way. Some nights that it was a little bit rough for me. You would just say something kind as you were leaving, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
One more. Marie. This community is transforming. The whole United States and the state of California is becoming multilingual and multicultural. And sometimes in Nevada, it's easy to forget that that's what this community is. And you have been a strong voice to make sure we always recognize that we come from different backgrounds and we have different futures and we need to create opportunities for each and every one of those. This district has a dual immersion program, partly because you have participated in making that possible. Beyond that one campus, the need to include every Spanish speaker in the business of this district has been a passion of yours, and make sure that when somebody walks in the door, there's somebody who can speak Spanish. When there's a flyer that goes out, they can read it in their native language. That it's an expectation that people have multi-language skills, that being monolingual is okay, but multilingual is better. And we brought that to this board and been very consistent about it and made sure and stopped us when we were going too fast to make sure we were properly connecting with our community. And I want to honor you for that work. I think it's work that you advance above everybody else. And our community is better for it. Thank you very much for your service, for the years you've spent in an office on this board, and I hope the opportunity comes again. Thank you very much.
I'll just be the last because I was waiting to be the last. Maria, thank you for being VP. You were a very steady influence, very patient with us. You were always very patient. So I really appreciate everything you've done as a VP because we've gone through some pretty heavy work and you were part of that. So you should always be proud of that. You were a leader in that time and stepped in when Debbie wasn't available and really appreciated all of your willingness to listen and work with us. And let's face it, the number of 7-0s we've had is pretty tremendous considering we do have a number of different opinions. And you're part, along with Debbie, about getting the facts out, getting things sorted, getting us all on the same page. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And there's always something to learn, always something to learn. And it's been an honor to just be on the board and to be able to know all of you and look forward to more hard work. Thank you.
We can promise that.
We got some of that.
It's coming in.
Okay, so the next order of business is to elect a motion for the board, the trustee representative of the Marin County School Board organization.
I would like to nominate new trustee, Julie Jacobson, to be the Marin County School Board Association representative for the Nevada Unified School District. Welcome. It's a great way to learn the ins and outs of county education.
Thank you.
Second, trustee Butler. So trustee Mack is the current serving representative, and thank you very much. Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll commit her to do all this hard work.
Welcome to the board.
So, all in favor of trustee Julie Jacobson serving as our representative to Marin County School Board? Thank you. 7-0. Thank you. So we've seated officers. We're done with that. Is any final words before we move on to consent? Okay. The next item is item number 11, public comment for consent items. Do we have any public comment? We have no public comment that's come in, so we're going to proceed. So we're going to move to item 12, the approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent?
I want to pull, go ahead.
Recognizing.
You want to pull something?
I need my book, 18H.
18H?
The approval, and the contingency for the Center of the Arts.
Okay, yes, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll need a motion for all items except 18H.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I would like to pull item G and make it part of 17E's discussion.
So we're going to pull, at this time, we're going to pull 18G.
Correct. And,
okay.
We then propose that we make it part of 17E.
Sure. Let's get it off the consent agenda first and deal with that. So we've now pulled 18H and 18G. So do I need a motion for the consent agenda excluding 18G and H? Maria Aguilar moves. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Did Derek second? Trustee Nell second? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving the consent agenda, not including G and H? 7, there you go. 7-0. Okay. Now, trustee Diane, do you want to did you want to deal with that now? Is it a small item, or you want to put it down in discussion?
I think I'll wait. I just wanted to ask some clarifying questions about it. I didn't follow.
Okay, so we'll take it up after in our action item. Okay, so we're moving on to item 13, student presentations, anti-racism student presentation. Photo op, good. So Superintendent Costa, I think this is your item 13.
Yeah, so I want to thank a group of our brave students here in Nevada Unified School District that have been, have their fingers on the pulse of what's going on around our country, what's going on across our state, and what's going on here in Nevada. And they're wanting to call attention to that and informing us that while racism is a national problem and it's a statewide problem, it's also a problem here in Marin County and in Nevada. And I appreciate them for having the courage to come forward and sharing some of their experiences. This is very hard for anyone to do, but particularly our students. And so I'm appreciative of their courage to step forward and share this with us. I appreciate Phoebe Smith, who's been leading them in this work. And then there'll be some next steps that come out of that, and they will share that after their presentation. So, Ms. Smith, I turn this over to you. Bear with us. The technology to be able to make this happen is immense. It doesn't seem like it. It always seems, when it works well, it seems really easy, but it isn't easy. So,
do you see the presentation up?
Yeah, we can see the presentation and we can see some of our presenters.
Okay, great. So go ahead and get started, team.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm Maizani and I'm from San Marin and I'm a junior, and this is our anti-racism resolution that we would like to present to you. I am joined today by Raphael, who's from Marin Oaks, Jabani from Nevada High, and Mahalia from San Marin. Okay. I would first like to thank you to begin with for even taking the time to listen to us. It does mean a lot to us as students of NUSD, and it shows that you guys do care and do have some intent. And I really appreciate it, and we all do. Within the past year, the essential push for racial equity and justice has increased to the point at which it can no longer be ignored. Given the era of COVID-19 and since the murder of George Floyd, the issue of racial inequity throughout our society has been thrust to the forefront of our collective consciousness. As a school district, it is a responsibility and an expectation for NUSD to accurately represent and actively support all students of every cultural background. On September 8th, 2020, Tamalpais Union High School District released an anti-racism resolution, clearly declaring their standpoint for intolerance for any racist behaviors in their district. As a student of NUSD, it makes me ask the question, why doesn't my school district have a similar document or stance about racism in our schools? This Tamalpais Unified School District anti-racism resolution is the first of what I expect to be many, and I would like to know if Nevada Unified School District will join in solidarity with other Marin County and districts nationwide, or will we stay silent, be complicit in perpetuating racist structures, practices, and ideas, or will we put actions to our words and take a stand for all students and families in our community? We can see that statistics that we have collected reflect an immense need for change in our schools and our district. We'll be showing you some simple statistics involving suspension rates and disparities between successes that show our need for something like an anti-racist resolution. We cannot overlook the truths that these collections of data show. So first, we'll take a look at these suspension rates at these three NUSD schools. As we can see in the pie charts, which are representative of the school makeups, Nevada and San Marin are more predominantly white campuses, while Marin Oaks has a more unique population with the highest density of students of color out of all three schools. Putting this into some perspective, in the district overall, 3% of total students are suspended, and that number is as of the 2018-19 school year. The rates and percentages above are school specific and show clear patterns. When looking at suspensions and school populations, there's no denying how disproportionate these rates are. Black students are as much as 6.6 times more likely to be suspended than white students. And Hispanic and Latinx students are around 2.5 times more likely. To humanize these numbers a little bit, we see on each of these campuses that white students as a whole experience less punishments and less extreme ones, while students of color experience harsher and more immediate retribution. They are profiled and targeted by offenses and punishments. For example, something as small as a dress code's wording can be incredibly consequential to already marginalized groups. I ask you to please imagine the effects of even larger breaches of rules aimed towards these students. And next, we'd also like to look at student populations and advanced placement courses. The disparity here is the most exaggerated at Novato High, where white students are 6.6 times more likely to be enrolled in these programs than Black students are, and 2.3 times more likely than Hispanic students. This, again, is no coincidence. These are not just figures that we can brush aside. This achievement gap is created by low expectations of students of color and even the discouragement from even participating in these programs. We've let this become the norm, setting the bar low, underestimating and assuming things about students of color and pushing them down instead of encouraging higher achievement. It is imperative that we address this flaw in our school systems, clearly shown by these disproportionalities, and move towards more beneficial mindsets and practices. I'd like to hand it over now to Raphael, who will be sharing some of his personal experience with education.
Hi, I wanted to tell my story because I think it is a story of many Black and brown students in this county. I have learned after talking to a lot of people who have helped me work through some of the trauma I've experienced in schools, many of these things that I have quote unquote got in trouble for and resulted in my removal and disengagement from the academic community are things all kids do. I am constantly asking myself questions. Why am I treated differently? How do I succeed in a predominantly white populated, white owned, white society? Like, why do I need to be carefully looked at while walking to my home? Like, why do people question my appearance? Like, why do people assume the worst of me at first impression? Like, why do you have to handle the fact that I'm different in such drastic ways? Like, why do you press situations further than you would for your kind? Why would you put your hands on me, drag me onto the ground, gang up on me? Other kids do similar or worse things that I have done, but they were given opportunities and chances that I was not given. In 9th grade, I missed a lot of school because I lost trust and motivation to be at school. I know I need an education. I want to have an education. And a counselor I was talking to saw hope for my future that I had lost for myself. She suggested I continue my education at Marin Oaks High. At Marin Oaks, I have felt as if life can be accomplished and that I can actually do schoolwork with the right energy around me. I have felt successful in my academics given patience, belief in my abilities, and decent explanations with my assignments. I guess overall I feel hopeful again. I feel like I might make it through the rest of the school year pretty efficiently. As a matter of fact, I currently hold a space at the top of my junior class with a 4.0, given the profiling, badgering, and humiliation suffered at my other schools. I myself was fooled into believing that I couldn't do it. Now I know that I can.
Thank you for sharing. So through our resolution, we are hoping NUSD will commit to the following. The most effective way of change is through education, and with extensive and less Eurocentric or whitewashed curriculum and anti-racist training, we hope we can open new lenses for students and staff. Introducing new curriculum For high school students, such as ethnic studies courses will take time, commitment, and money, but we believe we should all be willing to go the extra mile. We are also requesting that along with diversifying curriculum, NUSD tries to the best of their ability to hire diverse staff that represents their student body. Growing up with at least one teacher that looked like me and could serve as a mentor would have made a safer place for me and other students on campus. Students, teachers, and faculty members should be actively making efforts to recognize and celebrate diversity and intersectionality by creating safe spaces on our campuses, as well as starting conversations about racism here at NUSD. Our student handbooks do not accurately address racism and rather mush it into bullying, while it must be its own section in order to represent its severity. We need to implement measures of accountability to our handbooks, along with adopting an anti-racist policy and that is posted on and enforced at all of our schools. We also believe it is important that schools support their student affinity groups and support groups such as the Samarin Equity Team, Race Relations Coalition, and the Latino Student Group. The district should plan to appoint an anti-racism task force with representatives throughout the community for organizing, oversight, and reviewing race-based data like district-wide suspension and discipline and the achievement gap, etc. We hope our next steps after this should be to collaboratively work with partners in the district to give their input and edits on our anti-racist resolution draft and to share the draft with cabinet and trustees. To gain further perspective on our draft, we advise asking students and other members of the community if needed. On behalf of the Samarin Equity Team, I would like to invite this board to partner with us to discuss further action and to do what's best for your students and specifically your students of color and to get behind this resolution. Thank you.
So thank you, students. I appreciate your courage, your passion for this work. I do want to talk a little bit about next steps. And then I do know we have at least one public comment on this topic. Right now, we have taken the resolution that was provided to us by the students that in very many ways mirrored the Tamalpais Union High School District resolution. That has been worked on a little bit by a couple of different groups. One is our Nevada Unified School District Educators of Color group under Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources Leadership. He has also worked with Cabinet and Education Services around ensuring that we don't commit to a resolution for the sake of committing to a resolution. If we're going to commit to this resolution, we want to commit to taking action. That's what the students are calling us out and saying you need to do. And we want to make sure that by the time we bring this resolution, and we will be bringing this resolution before you, it's something that we can fully commit to. So know that you will be seeing a draft of the resolution at the end of the week. And we'll continue to work it through the appropriate groups so that we make sure that when it gets in front of the board, it's something that the district says, this is something that we can commit to and we can achieve all of these goals.
Any comments from the trustees? Diane?
So I just wanted to say that the presentation was really well done. I'm very impressed with the students and their ability to speak and present on that. And thank you for sharing. I was really looking at some of the things on the list, and I would say that I'm proud that I know that we've made steps on some of those items. And I was able to participate with Jonathan and the Educators of Color meeting that he held, I think it was last week, and seeing voices coming, being heard and being brought forward. So that was very helpful for me as well. So I'm just grateful that this is, and I'm totally in favor of it and look forward to seeing what comes from it.
Yeah, similar comments. Thank you to the students for bringing this forward. Racism is not okay in our schools and in our community. So I appreciate you stepping up and putting this in front of us and saying we need to do something about this. And I fully support a resolution that comes forward. I look forward to seeing that. I commend you for standing up, and you're setting an example and making a difference for not only the students today, but students coming through our district in the future. So continue the efforts, and we need to be doing this. So thank you.
I want to echo what Trustee Gasson was saying about thanking you for the work you guys have done. This is tremendous work. Very much appreciated, and it doesn't stop here. We need to keep on going, and I really look forward to working more with you guys on this. I also want to point out, commend, let's go back to when Jim was around. This started with him. When I first came on, equity, equity, equity was top of the list. And so Jim instilled that. Chris is carrying the torch and very enthusiastically. And also too, let's commend Jonathan for all the efforts he's making. Because the very first thing you listed, diversify staff, that's number one on his list. And we totally support that. It's just not as easy as we'd like it to be. But by all means, we know that's important. So we look forward to working with you guys. Look forward to the resolution, and it's not going to just be words. It's something that we really want to go after. So thank you.
I want to thank the students. That was a wonderful presentation, and I particularly want to thank you for giving your experiential information to us. That I think is what's going to really make a difference in people's understanding. And you know, I don't want to live in a place where we're marginalizing students, and so whatever we can do to do this work, I personally am here for.
Okay. I'm going to add my comments. First, Maria, I said earlier, I want to honor you for the diversity of voice you've always had at this table, so thank you for that. It's interesting, sometimes leadership comes in interesting places, and here we have students that are stepping forward to provide leadership to what would normally be looked as a bunch of adults on a board and a superintendent. And I think that's the exciting part about Novato, is that the doors are open for those kinds of opportunities. And I'm glad to hear we're going to take the time to do this as a process and with the entire organization, and not just, thank you very much, it's a great piece of paper, we'll vote and put it aside, and that's the end of that conversation. So thank you, Trustee Costco, President Costco, Superintendent Costco, for structuring this so this has a lasting impact on us moving forward. And I don't think this is an action item at this point. Trustee Aguilar, did you have a comment?
Oh, just a comment.
And then we have one public comment.
Pardon me, two public comments.
Two public comments.
I'll do it after the.
Okay, so we'll hear the public comments.
Okay.
We need a timer.
We're managing the technology here. Just give us a.
Hello, am I up for public comment? This is Heidi.
Yeah, Heidi, we hear you.
Okay, great. I really want to start by thanking Raphael, Giovanni, Maizani, and Mahalia. Your hard work and leadership and passion are clear, and your courage to present to the governing board for NUSD is an inspiration for all of us. The courageous students have presented data and personal stories and have courageously spoken truth to power. At the last meeting, this board said you wanted to hear from the students, and now you have. I hope you've listened and are already making plans on your notepads, laptops, and in your minds to do what the students are asking you to do. They have asked you to commit to and hold yourselves and the district accountable to eliminating systemic disparities and ensuring systemic equity, and to disrupting current policies and practices that perpetuate racism and disparities in educational opportunities. The board discussed December 1st that the inequities and suspensions were the result of district policies, practices, and decisions, and the responsibility of this board and district to change. The students have asked you for solidarity, integrity, tolerance, and equitable opportunities for success. They have asked you to adopt an anti-racist resolution that they have drafted that commits to anti-racist action through diversity in staffing, implementation of representative curriculum and ethnic studies, supporting and participating in community-wide efforts, accountability of the board effort in all staff in creating a task force and anti-racist policies. Please remove the bureaucratic barriers and red tape. Please do not repackage their work with formats and words that make people more comfortable. Please stay true to your mission to engage, inspire, and empower the students by moving swiftly to partner with the students to get their anti-racist resolution adopted and prove to them that their voices, input, expertise, educational and emotional success, and lived experiences matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, students.
If it's okay for me to add one thing, I just wanted to make a comment and say, first of all, my respect for all of you guys going here and speaking in front of the board today. It's just is so high. And I got to tell you, you know, from one student to another, as a student board member, I want to help you guys and make sure that NUSD is willing and ready to work forward to make this resolution happen. And I know a lot of us on here are going to commit to that. I know Eva as well is fantastic with that. So I just wanted to say thank you because, I mean, I know a few of you on here like Maizani and Mahalia, but I know you guys are really the leaders of the future. And it just means a lot that, you know, you guys are stepping up and showing us like, you know what, this has to be said. And there is such an unsung power to the student and the individual student. And so the fact that you guys are here, it really, really shows that, you know, we are one step closer to making a positive change. And I'm so grateful for that. So keep up the good work, you guys. And I'm really excited to be working with you.
I'd like to say.
All right, we have one more comment, correct? I think it was a student board member.
Yeah. Am I good to go?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the students who presented. This anti-racism is an issue that just needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And I'm in 100% support in whatever I can do to help make this resolution happen. And I just want to point out that this resolution isn't just words on paper. It's something that needs to be enforced every single day because so many students' welfare depends on it. Yeah, so thank you so much for all the students who presented.
We have one more to go. Yep.
Agree that.
I'm sorry, there's two more.
Okay.
Curtis should be speaking.
We're waiting for a speaker.
Curtis should be speaking now.
Hello there, Curtis Akins here. Thank you first I want to thank those wonderful students for that great presentation. And it just gives me so much hope and pride and pride for this generation and maybe the things that we worked on in the 60s and 50s and 40s and back as far as the 20s and the previous century, we can make happen today. I'm so proud of all of you students and Phoebe for supporting you with your work and hearing parents speak up on behalf of these students, not just the Black and brown students, also the white students who need to learn about the wonderful culture that African Americans, Hispanic Americans, so many others in this society bring to this great country. I had 3 students graduate from NUSD, 2 from San Moran, 1 from Novato High. My youngest son went on to college and graduated with honors, and he was told at Novato High that, hey, maybe trade school is for you. So these students of color need that support. They need that encouragement. They don't need to be suspended in middle school like both my boys were for what was looked at as minor infractions. So these things are happening. They still happen. So I'm encouraging and hoping the school board will get behind this initiative and make it happen sooner rather than later. And let every child in the Novato school system know that they are valued, that they are cared for, that they get everything any other student, any white student is entitled to. So please make that possible for the students of color. Thank you.
One more. Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, shout out to the youth. Shout out to the amazing presentation. I have some words that I was not able to say at the last meeting, so I'm going to combine my statement. My name is Samantha Ramirez. I'm an educator, and I currently work at Novato Schools. I work for a local nonprofit, and I facilitate youth programs with the focus on student voice and social justice. I love my work and the students I work with, but I have to be honest. As a woman of color, I have personally faced discrimination and racism as an educator in NUSD. Novato is racist, Marin County is racist, and it is not up for debate. If you are not a BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, or person of color, you cannot speak on racism because it doesn't oppress you. It has not affected you in the same way. Racism and white supremacy are real. They just don't impact white people in the same ways. But we don't matter any less. I wanted to support getting the SROs off campus in our last meeting, but this meeting, I really want to talk about the importance of teacher trainings and administrator trainings. I felt the negative school culture at Novato schools. I've worked at many different ones. What kind of accountability can we have for if teachers and admin make students and families feel less than? How do we allow this to continue happening? What can be done? Because the reality is that we come to these meetings and we express our pain, and boards say, thank you so much. We have a lot to think about. The reality is that the future of our young people is at stake. The safety, their lives, and their dreams is at stake. So I really need to see a sense of urgency from the Novato School Board in terms of what you're going to do to address anti-racism. Not now, not in the future, but now, like right now, because we're hurting now. Our lives are being put on these tracks right now. It's happening as we speak. So I would really love to see more sense of urgency from the board and from you decision makers in terms of what you're going to do to make our schools safe for our BIPOC students and therefore for all students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is that our last public speaker? Okay. Superintendent Costa, do you want to?
Yeah, so just in closing, we will be getting the draft of the resolution to the trustees at the end of this week. We'll continue to work with our departments that are impacted by the statements in the resolution to make sure that they feel like this is something we can realistically commit to. And the goal is to bring the resolution to the board on January 26th. So 2 meetings from now. It gives us 1 more meeting to do that work. And then on the 26th, you'll have that resolution before you.
Okay, so we're meeting one time early in January. The second
12th.
meeting is in January 26th. Trustees, any comments?
Kind of just touching on what was just said, I actually went back to the key points of the resolution, and I think what would be interesting, I got some insight as to what the district has already done to try to support this. And so maybe if appropriate at that time, we can also touch on the timeline of implementing these. Like I know that Jonathan's been working really hard with different organizations to pull in more diversity for our staff. And then there was also the education program that's coming, so there, I feel like we can do these in tandem and maybe, again, if it's appropriate, include the things that we are already moving towards.
Sounds good.
Other comments? So with that, we're going to finish this item. Superintendent Costa will bring it back to us in 2 weeks. And we'll move on to the next item. The next item is item number 14, announcements, board superintendent and student board members. And we're going to go with the student board members first. So Eva, Elizabeth, and Chloe, I believe are all 3 of you on this evening. It's hard to see the screen from where I'm sitting. Your picture's very little. So
Eva and I are here, but I don't think Chloe's here today.
Okay, Elizabeth, you want to start off?
Sure. All right. Last update of 2020. I can't believe we're finally here, right? So let's see. To start off, our semester is finally winding down. Everybody's kind of preparing for a successful final. And in San Marin's case, it means that half of our classes will be fully complete. So just a few updates. We have senior photos January 13th. I know my friends and I are very ready for that. STEM and biotech applications for the class of 2025 are due towards the end of January, which blows my mind. And speaking of the biotech program, because there's not too much that I feel like I have to update you guys on at the very end of this semester. But I wanted to just acknowledge something really quick on something pretty special that my classmates and I experienced today. So today we had our very last biotech class with my teacher of 4 years, who was present on our Zoom for the last time this year. It was the end of an era for my class, and my classmates and I all called each other afterwards, and we cried talking about just how much this biotech experience and this teacher had meant to all of us. So, I mean, I couldn't be more thankful for all of you that make our education happen, because it really does make such a difference. And for the people like our amazing teacher, Dr. LB, who totally left an impact on all of our lives for the better. So all I want to say is basically thank you to specifically Dr. LB and all of you guys at NUSD, and happy holidays. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm grateful. So thank you.
Cool. Ava.
Hi, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Not a whole lot to report today. Mostly just prepping for next school year. MSA and MCP applications are due January 6th. And AVID and ASB applications are due February 1st. We had a Spirit Week last week, which went pretty well. And makeup pictures are coming up for 9th through 11th graders on January 25th and January 29th. And yearbook is working hard to collect some pictures and things to fill up our yearbook from this year. And then for MSA, we actually have a big week of concerts, all virtual, of course. All of these will be linked on MSA's website, and you guys can go watch them at their premiere times. Today was the classical music at 6 o'clock, and that should be up on the website if you guys want to go take a look. Tomorrow is the dance concert at 6 p.m. and the vocal concert at 7:15. And December 17th is the rock band concert at 6:45, which I'm going to be in. So if you guys want to watch that, that'll be really cool. And then December 18th, we have an MSA alumni and student soiree at 7 o'clock. And I know how much work has been put in, not only by the students, but the teachers to make this concert happen. So it's going to be really special if you guys want to take a look. And that's all I have for the day.
Cool. Thank you. Ava, thank you. I hear Chloe's not joined us this evening, so I'm going to skip past her, and then we'll go around the table clockwise. Diane?
So not much. I'm just going to keep it short and say to those celebrating, happy Hanukkah, 6th night tonight, and happy holidays. And just want to remind everyone to stay safe, keep your distance, keep healthy, so our kids can go back to school at the beginning of the year.
Just some monthly meetings that I attend, which is the Efficiency and Effectiveness Committee and Joint Legislative Action Committee. I just kind of hop on JLAC just to hear what's going on, and our legislature is back in session. The 185 bills were introduced just recently. One of them being reopening of schools. There's a measure that Assemblymember Ting has put out there. So that is if we're in a red, orange, or yellow, that schools will have to reopen. So we're kind of keeping our eyes on that. And there's several bills around early education, and also there's a couple school bond measures that are popping up as well. So they're obviously just getting started, so we don't know. We're going to track those and see where they end up going. Also health and wellness, there's some bills on that. So that was a really interesting meeting, and as we move into January, we'll get more information on the 21-22 budget, and we'll be keeping our eyes on that as well. Not in Our Town hosted a forum honoring United Against Hate Week, so that was, I'm glad I was able to Zoom on to that, and well-attended city council members, school board members here that were on there, and a lot of community members. So I thought it was a great, made an impact. Also, Model the Way Awards, I was able to enjoy those as well. So, that's it.
Trustee Mayor?
And nothing to report.
Cal?
I too attended the JLAC committee countywide meeting on joint legislative action. And we're discussing our priorities for this year's trip to Sacramento, which is going to be a 2-hour Zoom meeting with our lobbyists and hopefully someone from the State Board of Education, as well as our State Senator Mike McGuire and our Assemblyman Mark Levine. Trustee Butler mentioned back to school initiative that's coming forward, and there was a lot of pushback on that particular legislation because it was another template, which has become a dirty word amongst public school educators because of the amount of work required. We spend a lot of time doing reporting, filling in the template, but we don't actually do anything or feel like we accomplished much. So I do think that CSBA and JLAC and other trustees and administrators are going to be pushing to limit the amount of work required in this potential template for on how to open schools. Basically what we wanted to do is put together our priorities, and it looks like we've settled on pension liabilities and special education, again, for our top 2 priorities. However, we did discuss mental health, digital access, both urban and rural, as well as child development as priorities that we're going to mention as well. And I'm sure we'll get you a draft of the upcoming priorities and the schedule once we settle on a date. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trustee Jacobs?
Yeah, I also attended the Novato, or excuse me, not in our town, Novato. There was an amazing TED Talk that they presented that if you can get access to, please watch. It was really good. It was very in line with what our students presented tonight as well. And I just want to say that I'm so excited to join this wonderful board. We have a really fantastic district office. We have such amazing teachers and all the staff at every site. And just getting to be a representative for our families and our communities is a huge honor for me personally. So thank you.
Chris Aguilar?
Yeah, just wanted to welcome you to this board again. And I wanted to just say that I participated in the Golden Dog Committee. And I was selected by the committee to be the new co-chair. So I will be doing that. I asked Tom on the way here, like 5 minutes before we got here, I said, are you sure this last minute? You know, if you want to do it, or like, are you positive? And he said no, so anyway, but I did my best. But yeah, so I'm excited to be the new co-chair, and I look forward to working with lots of great people that I've been working with for many years. And it's a great committee because we get to celebrate our teachers and other people that really deserve to be celebrated. So that's it.
I want to thank all of you for trusting me to keep this process moving forward and organized, and we can be an effective governing board and support faculty and staff. Thank you very much for the honor, and I hope a year from now I've served well and you haven't thrown me out the door. Superintendent Tosca, could you?
Yeah, I think that the theme for what I want to say tonight is thank you. This is our last meeting of 2020. We all know that the year 2020 has been a challenge for many, been a challenge for our society. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's made sacrifices through this year. All the trips that we've given up, the employment opportunities, the need to cut back on work so we can help educate our children at home. the Learning Hub partners, everybody who's made sacrifices through 2020. I just want you to know how much I personally appreciate each and every one of you. As 2020 winds down, so does another person that I want to say thank you to. So Dr. Carter, I hope you'll come up here with me.
Surprise.
This is Dr. Carter's last board meeting with NUSD.
Back there.
Sorry if I woke you up. But I don't have any gift, I don't have any plaque, I don't have any roses, but I have a heartfelt thank you for the time that you've spent making NUSD better for our students, helping us better learn how we can make NUSD better for our students. Your legacy is strong here. We know that you are just going a few miles down the road, and so your influence on NUSD will continue. We're appreciative that, as Mary Jane Burke said earlier, as goes Novato, so goes Marin County, and this is an example. But really what, in our conversations about what you're hoping to do in that work with Marin County Office of Education is to take many of the things that we're doing here and replicate it outside of NUSD and across Marin County, and we're thrilled that we're going to be able to maintain our partnership with you and keep working with you, and know that we're going to miss you terribly, but we're proud of you and this next step that you get to take.
Thank you. I've learned so much from Jim and Chris and this amazing board. Nevada is just in my DNA, and I'll always just be a phone call away. So looking forward to taking the wonderful work, like Chris said, that's happening here in Nevada, really spread it across Marin and lead the way that way. So I'm really grateful, and thank you. Get up from you. All right. Love you,
Before you walk away, one more comment. You and I earlier had the opportunity in the hallway to talk about your new role and where you're moving to. And you reminded me, as we were having this quick conversation, the important thing to do is to look at the student, measure the success of the student. And that's Nevada's secret sauce. And I'm sorry you're going down the road, but you're, like the superintendent said, only a phone call away. But thank you very much. Your leadership in this community to make it better for all 8,000 students shows.
Thank you. You've got so much talent here, talent in the front office, talent upstairs. They're going to continue exactly that work. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we're moving on to item 15, which is non-agenda public comment. This is a chance if we have people who would like to speak to the board about issues that are not agendized. This is a chance to get 3 minutes to speak to the board, and we will bring them up in order. And since we are now remote, our technical staff is going to make sure that and I believe we have 4 speakers, 3 minutes each. So I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Mariah Fisher, and I'm the president of the Novato Federation of Teachers. Tonight, I'm here to share some data regarding the wellness and health of your certificated staff. 279 staff members completed the wellness survey, which works out to be about 70% of the certificated staff. I'm here tonight to share some of the data with you. I think this data is really important as it reflects an aspect of this challenging school year that is a concern that we need to come together to try to address. Starting with some highlights, 67% of the certificated staff feel supported by peers at their sites, and 69% feel supported by their site principals. Moving to some of the areas of concern. 20% of your certificated staff are experiencing health issues related to stress at work and long work hours. 63% of your certificated staff reported that they do not have time and energy to provide support to their own family members. The main point of concern is that 76% do not feel supported by the district office. It is this last piece of data that I feel is our biggest hurdle. 76% of your certificated staff do not feel supported by the district office. How do we work on this? How do we work on this idea to have staff feel supported and cared for? First, we have to share and acknowledge the data. It is about realizing that just because something doesn't have to be done doesn't mean that it can't be done. Take childcare for employees next semester. I was just made aware that multiple districts in Marin have told staff they will be allowed to bring their school-age children to campus on days they are not at school because of cohorting and remote learning conflicts. In this same wellness survey, 20% of NFT members have said that childcare is a big problem for them next semester. Can we come up with solutions that our neighboring districts have adopted to show employees that we understand the extreme stress they are under? I believe we can. The question is, do we want to? Do we want to recognize this data and do something about it? Your educators are all doing what they can to get our community through this, and they are in need of some support. I know that our relationship has been rocky, but I also know we have a common goal: to support and nurture public education and in Novato. I would love to find a way to be a part of the same team. Teamwork, I work on it every day with my students. It is communication, collaboration, listening, and trust. I am ready to do the work, and I'd love for us to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 more speakers.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. My name is Emma. I'm calling in mostly regarding the anti-racist resolution that was presented by students tonight. I wanted to second the points made by other callers, especially Samantha Ramirez. I would also like to applaud the anti-racist resolution presented by the students. I'd like to also applaud you as board members for taking the time to listen to the presentation, and I do hope that the resolution is adopted. As a further action involving campus equity and anti-racist practices, I would also like to revisit the issue of the racial disproportionality of interactions between school resource officers and students. We know that in Novato, the majority of youth who are arrested and/or cited by law enforcement are youth of color. It can only be expected that these trends would be reflected in interactions between law enforcement and students on school campuses. I hope that the examination of SROs on Novato campuses will include the examination of racial disparity in SRO interactions, as well as an examination of how having officers on campuses contributes to the school-to-prison pipeline, specifically for students of color. Thank you for your consideration. Have a great night.
Thank you very much, Emma.
Hello, everyone. This is me, Heidi Merchant again. I'm a San Marin parent. As Emma did, I would also like to keep the topic of removing SROs in the conversation and remind you of what we heard on December 1st. We heard from many students, parents, and community members who support removing cops from campus and replacing them with support staff, like counselors who would be trained in restorative and anti-racist practices. Research shows that having police at school increases inequities, the very inequities we're wanting to address with the anti-racist resolution, making Black and Brown students unsafe and pushing many into the school-to-prison pipeline. Relying on armed police to deal with safety issues has led nationwide to a massive increase in the arrest of students that fundamentally undermines the mission of our schools. Please remember that you are asked to center the voices of BIPOC students and those who are most unfairly and unjustly impacted by police at school. Please do not let louder white parents use their privilege to center the narrative that police protect our children and keep them safe. Research shows there is no evidence of this, as they were both at Columbine and Parkland and unable to do anything. Your actions to remove SROs will be in alignment with the district's values of inclusion and equity and your mission to engage, inspire, and empower students and start making our schools places where every student feels safe, feels like they belong, and has what they need to reach their full potential. For I ask you, who among us in this meeting tonight does not long for this to be a reality in Novato? Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. One more. Yeah.
Hi, it's Curtis Akins again. And first, I want to thank you. Well, can you hear me?
Yes, Curtis, we can hear you.
And Curtis Akins, and I want to thank you, board members. I really, really wanted to slow down and just say thank you for being board members and thank you for the work you do. I don't know if you get thanked that often from the public because we have things that we want you to do on behalf of our teachers or our students. And I want to say thank you for that. So there's my thank you. And I also want to address the issue of SROs on campus. And if I may borrow Superintendent Koska's words, whom I believe borrowed from Mary Jane Burke, and forgive me if I say this wrong, but as go Novato, so goes Marin County. So if we can remove the SROs from campus, maybe the whole county will. And I've done a lot of work with this topic over the last 6 months. I met several times with the chief of police here in Novato. I've given 2 talks with the whole staff of the police about racial injustices. And I said to the chief in his office, I said, Chief, if you are as forward thinking and your police department is as forward thinking as you present to the public, and I didn't want to call him out. I'm just saying, so this issue of SROs, let's take them off campus. If the work that these wonderful police officers, and I know both of them, they're wonderful people, the work that they want to do on campus, let's take that off the campus. We don't need police. We don't need those uniforms on the campus. Now, this is my opinion, but we also have statistics and facts to back that up. Children of color are approached more times than any white student. And they are confronted off campus by these guys that are supposed to be their friends. So please put your new board members, put yourselves in the place of those children, those black and brown children. Do you want to see a police officer on campus? Don't you want to have a safe place that you can go in and meet a teacher like Wes? There's just wonderful teachers at our school that can talk with these kids. I feel much better than a police officer in a uniform and a gun on his hip. So please be as forward thinking as we present ourselves to, and let's get these SROs off campus. Have a great night. Happy holidays, everyone. Again, thank you for your work.
Sure. Thank you. That concludes all of our speakers. Thank you very much. We're now going to move to staff reports, item number 16, and it's a Measure G bond completion report. Superintendent? I think we got Mike Willard here. We're going straight to Mike Willard. Yep.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Really quick, wanted to give you an update. One of the favorite parts of this job is to show you the great successes that we are making out there with our Measure G bond program. Tonight, we were originally going to kind of do a sneak peek for what was going to be some ribbon cutting ceremonies at the 2 high schools for the new science facilities. Unfortunately, due to the continuing COVID challenges, we pushed those into the new year. But still would like to show you 3 short videos, about 2.5 to 3 minutes each, that go over the construction and then the eventual tour of the new facility of 3 of these projects. First, I'd like to show you the San Marin STEM building, great facility. After that, do the Novato Center for the Sciences building, and then finish up with the Novato High School Athletic Fields Complex project. I just want to let you know that all 3 projects are completed. For the science buildings, the teachers have been moved over and moved in. I should say they're still getting settled in and unpacking and getting comfortable with their new facilities. Some are teaching classes out of the new buildings already. I would like to also thank Peter Lyons. It's who we've hired as our videographer, photographer. Did a great job, I think, documenting the progress of these projects. And as you can see, took some really good shots with his drone. which never ceases to impress. But overall, we're very thankful to have him on board to help. With that, I'd like to hopefully not mess up the technology, but share my screen and show you the first video. Okay, and hopefully the sound comes through.
So far, we see your face. So far, just your face.
Just my face? Okay, hold on.
So far, quite a vehicle.
That's not what it's, let's try this. I apologize. How about now?
What's happening? Well, we see dirt. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let me start over at this beginning. So here's the first video with San Marin STEM Center. Now the finished product. Okay, that was San Marin STEM project, and the classroom we did see was one of our teachers actually moved in, hadn't been teaching out there for the last 2 weeks. Next, I'd like to show you the Novato High Center for the Sciences building, and if I can do this again without the technical glitch. And hopefully you have a video. And here we go. Pretty rough looking before. All right, and one last video, and I apologize for the lovely soundtrack music that we're playing. Hard to find something that's it's nice and entertaining. So the last one is the Novato High Athletic Fields Complex. I know you've seen some photos of this over the last couple months, but just wanted to give you another quick video of sort of where we started from and how it finished up. So last time, sharing the screen. Here we go. It's hard to tell the difference between the grass and the dirt. In case you ever want to know how they put synthetic turf field down, as you see here, they're unrolling about 100-foot roll, and they put it next to the previous roll, and then they use that stitching machine right there and sew them together, and then they flip it out, and it's pretty interesting. Voila, turf field. And as you heard the athletic director for both high schools tell you at the last board meeting that a lot of sports cohorts are using these fields as we speak. We do have tennis nets. I just had to put them away because people kept breaking in to play tennis. All right, well, thank you for your patience. I know it's hard to watch 3 3-minute videos, But again, I think pictures do a lot better job than me trying to explain to you with the slideshow some of the progress and we've had with these construction projects. And again, we're really proud to have completed these and are excited to be still working on a few more and still planning the final few for the program. With that, I'd like to open up any questions board members might have. If not, I will.
Question. Derek, did you want to put item 18H right after this? Was that your goal?
No, mine's going to go with the 17E, I think it was, the approval of the Cal student exemption.
Okay, Mike. So questions for Mike? Trustee Aguilar?
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to say, great presentation. Thank you so much. I visited both sites. I did it separately from the board. I was sick that time, and so I thank Mike for giving me private tours. I did it several times, both sites. And during those tours, we had conversations regarding safety and money, and you kept safety as number one priority. So as I would ask him, well, did this, how about this, and how about that, and everything that, all my questions he answered, and I was able to see how, just how proud, how beautiful it's coming along, and we talked about money and safety, and we're just going the right direction. And that's where we want this board and our property to go to the right direction. So speaking of property, I know that it took a lot of time. It's taking a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money to keep our property safe. And so I think probably our next conversation, when it's convenient, maybe we can talk about what we're going to need to do to keep, since we already have a few incidences, I just want to protect our property too, and just how we can maybe have surveillance cameras or something that I know that we've anyway, it's a conversation that we need to address after this is all said and done. It's just beautiful, and too much time involved, and too expensive, valuable in many different ways for us and for our students. And so, gosh, just the timing is just horrible, because where was this when I was a student at Novato High, and just a couple of years when my nephews were here at San Marin, I'm going to send them pictures. They're going to be so jealous. So anyway, that's all I want to say. And I just want to thank you again. I can't wait till it's done.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for those. I actually didn't mind the music. I won't let you know what my girls listen to at home, so it was kind of like nice retreat. Do we have it in the format? I presume that we can make sure that it gets uploaded for the community to see?
Yes, we're currently working with Leslie and some other folks on how to do the technology stuff to put it up on our many social media sites and obviously on our website. So we'll definitely get that up there as soon as we can.
Okay, I think it would be important to showcase that, because the community that's their, they're it. And I have to admit, when I was watching it, I was like, those chairs are not 3 feet apart. But
Pre-COVID, this was designed for.
Oh no, but I was like, it's a shame that we can't.
Actually, there was 2 classrooms I saw today that teachers had already rearranged, getting ready for their cohorts to come in the new year, that were socially distanced and met the proper protocol. So they're definitely getting there.
Thank you, Mike. These are beautiful facilities. They turned out fantastic. And the science buildings are serving our students today, providing that education that's changed so much, and the STEM aspect of it as well. So it's just so well needed, and it's amazing. Our students are going to be so, they'll be appreciative, but it'll serve them well in their education and doing that in today's world. Also, the management of these 3 projects on top of everything else and your staff, I want to commend you for that as well.
Great team.
Yeah, great teamwork is right. So thank you for that. And please thank Melissa as well for her work on this. And I have some red ribbon right here. We can do a cutting.
Yeah, the scissors.
We'll take care of it.
Trustee Mack, did you have a comment?
No, I just say thanks, Mike. Really looking forward to seeing the PAC videos. That's going to be fun as well. And then
Coming in a couple months for sure.
Yeah, and then ultimately the final campus videos when Sam Rain's reskinned and knock on wood, maybe Nevado's too at some point. So.
Cool. Other comments? So people think that this is a school district of 8,000 children and an operating budget of almost $100 million, the largest enterprise in the city of Novato. Remember, on top of the $100 million a year to run the schools, there's the construction budgets that are upgrading the schools so that the students of Novato have better opportunity. Marie, you missed, I'm sorry, but it'll be great for your grandkids. So that additional workload that goes through this district office sometimes is just missed in terms of accounting, but it's $25 million to $50 million a year additional work that's being managed by the administration of this organization. So Mike, hats off to all of you who are pulling this work off. Mike, thank you very much for bringing us up to date on this report.
Thank you, Justin.
We're going to move forward. We're going to go to discussion item actions. And the first, not good. The first one is approval of the 2021 first interim budget report.
Superintendent Hawkins will be taking this one.
Okay, that was quick.
Yeah, there he is. Look at him.
Hello, hello.
Look at that. We see you, but we don't hear you. Up there, there's a slide.
Up the screen, yep.
All right, can everybody see me?
Yes.
We don't, we see
Well,
that.
can't even see the presentation.
Yeah, we see a bunch of children. Are they all?
You know what? This is a big upgrade, so we're going to go with it. All righty, so we're at the first interim report. It's the second major report. And I would be remiss if I did not thank Nancy Walker and her team for all of their work. There is just so much work that goes in to each of these interim presentations and packages that Nancy Walker, we are so lucky to have her. And I just wanted to say thank you to her. So what is first interim? First interim is our first major budget update since our budget adoption in June. It includes information that we have through and actuals through October 31st of the year. It includes the adopted state budget as well as our actual staffing and actual enrollment. And tonight, the board, I will be asking the board for approval of the budget adjustments included in the document, as well as the certification that NUSD can make its financial commitments in the current year and next 2 fiscal years. I always love Nancy puts on, a lot of great pictures, and I think this is a great example of, what has changed this year. And just because that we're remote or hybrid doesn't mean that, that amazing learning isn't going on by our teachers and staff and, of course, our students. So, wow, we've been through a little bit of a journey this year since the adopted budget. And I'm going to kind of walk us through that. In May and June, so our adopted state budget was based on the governor's May revision of his budget proposal for 2020, 2021. That proposal included a 10% across the board reduction to revenue to NUSD. Very quickly, it blew up the deficit from to almost $8 million in the current year, and a projected budget deficit of $9.5 million in 2021, 22, and over $10 million in 2022, 23. Luckily, the state did not approve the governor's proposed budget, and really, thankfully, used every arrow in their quiver to at least get us to flat funding for this year. They used everything they could get out of their sleeve. They spent down the reserves. They've deferred a huge amount of money. They borrowed from other funds. But given COVID and the situations that schools are in, we are very fortunate that the state did that. The budget also included a CARES Act funding, which the state allocated in great measure to support schools and reopening safely. Like I noted, it included major cash deferrals, and how that impacts NUSD is through our cash flow and our potential borrowing that we have to do internally. The adopted budget included restrictions on layoffs, and very importantly, two things: a hold harmless on ADA at our 2019-2020 levels, and relief for the increases in PERS and STIRS for 2 years. So that's 2020-21 and 2021-22. Just to be clear, as the state did use, like I noted, all of the arrows in their quiver, that leaves for potential budget cliff in 2021-22, and even more likely in 2022-2023 at the state level if we don't see major changes to the economy at the state level. As soon as the budget was adopted, the board took quick action to balance the 2020-2021 budget. This was really in order to put the district in the best position possible, knowing that the state had used up a huge amount of its ability to reduce cuts or other negative impacts on school districts in 2021. And so the board approved on June 30th, $2.4 million in reductions, primarily one-time in nature. Those included over $500,000 in frozen positions, furloughs, as well as positions repurposed and paid for with federal funds. So to kind of do a quick recap of that journey, at budget adoption, we had a projected deficit of just under $8 million. With the adopted state budget and the flat funding by the state, our budget was projected to have a deficit of $2.7 million. And with the budget balancing plan that was approved by this board on June 30th, the budget deficit was down to almost a balanced budget at a $334,000 deficit, or about 1/3% of our budget. We also received CARES Act funding that's supporting the safe reopening of schools. Those funding was used to support the Virtual Learning Academy, which has been very successful, to fund personal protective equipment, additional cleaning and custodial positions and equipment, professional development around distance learning, additional special education costs, very specifically transportation costs due to the reduction in capacity of our buses in COVID requirements, additional curriculum, including remote curriculum, technology, including iPads and Chromebooks, to have us not just be 3 through 12 one-to-one, but TK-12 one-to-one this year, as well as internet connectivity, and whether that's wireless hotspots or more recently working with Xfinity and bringing direct cable internet to some of our students. All right, so the first interim report. The first interim report is very similar to where we were after the budget balancing plan was adopted. The budget deficit actually is down from a little over 300,000 to a projected $139,000 on the unrestricted side, which is the side I always note that we're going to focus on. We do have a restricted program deficit of about $1 million, but that's related to prior year grants that were not fully spent, some due to COVID, some just due to regular timing. Along with Fund 17, this projects an ending fund balance of about $11.5 million, or a little over 12% of our annual budget. As we move forward to the multi-year projections, we show a deficit of about $139,000 in this year, as I noted. In 2021, 2022, related to the flat funding and the one-time nature of most of the budget reductions that were made in 2020, 2021, our deficit bumps back up to about 2.2 million, which is a little over 2% of our annual budget. But in 2022, 2023, that budget balloons to over $7.5 million projected in 2022-23. It's important to note in 2022, 2023, in these projections, the district would need to use the entire $3.2 million reserve in Fund 17, as well as make $1 million in budget reductions in that year, just to meet the 3% required state reserve at this point. So what's going on in 2022, 2023? I noted that there is a financial cliff, and that really relates to 3 factors. And they're all things that actually we've been talking about over the last 3 or 4 years, but these are those brought to an 11. So the first is the ongoing structural deficit of about $2 million, the projected flat funding of school districts by school service, and then the 2 key areas of where it jumps from 21-22 to 2022-23, the ADA hold harmless. So the hold harmless for 2019-20 into 2020-21 and 2021-2022 saves us from the reduction of enrollment that we've seen to date. As of our official enrollment date, which is the first Wednesday in October, we were down about 350 students year over year from 2019-20. A lot of that, or some of that, we know is related to COVID, and we can see that with especially the impact on TK, K, and 1 enrollment. So we will be watching that very closely as we move forward. But that reduction in enrollment alone is over $3 million impact to our budget. And then the PERS and STIRS relief that was included in the 2020-2021 budget expires in that year with an impact of almost $1.5 million. So if you take the $2 million structural deficit we currently have, add the $3 million loss of students plus the end of the relief of PERS and STIRS, you get about a $7.5 million projected deficit. So before we go into questions, kind of what's next for now. Stop sharing. So what's next? The next steps. Earlier this year, we approved a process for potential budget reductions for the 2021-2022 year. One of the key steps as we move forward is in early January, the governor puts out his proposed budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. It'll be a very interesting budget document because of obviously all the things going on the revenue side of the budget. And many of you have seen the recent LAO's report that did give some positive news for the 2020-2021 year, which we can have some hope moving forward. But that will be the next major piece of information that we need as we move forward in the 2021-2022 budget. And I'll be bringing that, a report of that, I believe, at the second meeting in January. With that, I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Board members? Debbie,
No questions, just some observations. I was looking at the MCU, Marin County Office of Education, their common message, and just reading the work on page 5 of that document. The work that we have to do to collect attendance and instructional minutes, I knew we had to do all of this. It's the fact that when I read through this and the accountability with our attendance clerks and our teachers to keep track of all this is so important. I just want to shout out to them for trying to stick to it and follow these rules and regulations, I guess you could say, in order for us, which will help us with funding for the following year, I'm assuming. I just found it very interesting, and it's a lot of work, and know that I see it and I acknowledge that. The other thing was, I'm just curious, this Prop 19 that passed in November 3rd here, it goes into effect February of 2021. And the only reason I'm asking is it's the inheritance of property. Would we, and the property tax gets adjusted, do we benefit from that at all as a district eventually at some point, or?
No.
Yeah.
It's actually a relatively negative impact on property taxes as we move forward. As we are a state-funded district from an operational standpoint, it doesn't impact us that much. It more impacts us on a bond repayment, as our assessed value growth is so important in a lot of the different ways that we go out and time and size our bond sales. So there isn't a significant, some community funded or basic aid districts are going to see some impacts from it, though, from an operations standpoint.
And just one thing, you're asking to transfer this $2 million to Fund 17, is that correct? Okay. And I support that.
Other comments? I have a question. In your projection for 2 years out, where you show a significant negative cash flow, on your list of items that were itemized in that report, I didn't see the parcel tax item that Novato benefits from. When does that, without renewal, do you know when that the revenue source ends?
Yeah. So that the parcel tax Measure A expires on June 30th of 2023. It was a 2009 parcel tax, which was renewed in 2014. And so usually that would mean that it would have expired in 2022, Trustee Millerick. But as it was a pure rollover tax, they didn't have the tax in 2014 replace the old tax. They had it go at the end of the 2009 measure, which ended in 2015. So it was 8 years on top of 2015.
How many did that bring to the district? You know,
just over $4 million annually.
Okay, and so that's in the year beyond you forecast the 3 years, right?
Correct. You will see that in the adopted budget of 2021-22. When we look at the second year out, you will see the impact of the potential loss of that funding.
Thank you very much, sir. So this is an action item. Is there any other questions before I ask for a motion?
Public comment.
We have a public comment. Thank you. So we'll go to public comment. How many? One. We're going to public comment now.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I just have a comment regarding the budget, taking a look at the budget cuts that we're gonna have to start talking about. I went back and forth about having this comment now or having it later in the action items. And I hope that maybe we can really start to take a look at restructuring administration at the district office. I recognize that Dr. Amy Carter is leaving for the Marin County Office of Ed, and that later on this evening you're going to be looking at the process of hiring somebody in that position. And when I first started working in San Marin, we didn't have assistant superintendents, and now we have 3 of them. The salary at that position is about half of an elementary school. And when we're talking about, potentially closing an elementary school and making a lot of really hard decisions that are based on declining enrollment and budget, and, it makes sense to me that that's maybe a part of the conversation. And so when you're talking about, the process starting in February, I believe it is, to look at a replacement for her, maybe we put that on pause and recognize that, maybe that needs to be a part of the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Any other public comment? We're done? Okay, good. Back to the board. Any comments? So I believe we need a motion to adopt the first interim report. It's an action item.
So moved.
Trustee Butler moves, Trustee Max seconds. All in favor of adopting the interim budget? 7-0. Okay. Next item, approval of the 2021 local funding control formula budget overview for parents. Who's doing the all CFS?
Yes. All righty. Thank you, trustees. So this year, in the place of the LCAP, two new reports were included as requirements, as a replacement for the LCAP that's usually passed along with the budget in June of each fiscal year. Those were the learning continuity plan that was approved in September by this board. That was the major document that detailed the actions being taken by the board and the district. And the second is this, which is the local control funding formula budget overview for parents. It's included. Trustee Gasson very thankfully noticed a typo, which that we have corrected for the final version on the second page, where it notes of the remaining 85.5 million in the third paragraph down, it notes 52.3 million for TKK instruction. That should note TK12 instruction. So my apologies on that. But overall, this is a lot of the same information that was in the learning continuity plan, just updated for first interim and put in a graphic that the community can better understand. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to questions, but this is not a lot of new information. It's just in a new format and hopefully a little bit easier for our community to look at. And this format is given to us by the state.
Yes.
So since it's for the community, how do they expect it to be disseminated or is it like a link on our website so that they can look at it, or just a requirement that we do it?
So number one, yes, it's a requirement that we do it, but yeah, it'll be included on the LCFF About Us portion, as well as in the business. If the board approves it, it'll be included in the business financial documents portion of the website as well.
Okay, so it's actually going to be retrievable from another location, though?
Absolutely. It will not just be in the board packet. It'll be included on a couple places on our website.
I mean, more at the state level. So because we send it to the people can retrieve it and not necessarily be, you answered my question. Thank you.
Other trustees' questions? If not, we need approval for a local control funding formula report. Trustee Aguilar, first. Mac, second. All in favor? 7-0 on item C. Consideration of new business service related to board policy as second reading, fund balance reserve.
Hey, look, it's Mr. Hawkins again.
Oh, man, okay.
Woo! Can't believe everybody's so excited. It's a bunch of Yancey items.
We reserved, yeah, never mind.
All right. Can everybody see the front page of the document?
Yes, fund balance.
All righty. So this is the second reading of the Nevada Unified School District Fund Balance Reserve policy. Over the last couple of years, I brought forth several items, including on April 23rd, 2019, on September 15th, 2020, items around a fund balance policy. On the board meeting on August 18th, the trustees directed staff to bring forward a proposed reserve policy. So on November 3rd, I brought the first draft of a reserve policy to the board, and I have taken that feedback and updated this policy slightly, and it's back for its second review. I won't spend a lot of time, but why do school districts need reserves in general? To mitigate volatility in funding. I think the presentation that I gave around first interim and the journey that we've been in the last 6 months is a pretty good example of why we need some flexibility when we have volatility in funding to maintain cash flows. We continue to have cash deferrals at the state at historic levels of almost $11 billion in the adopted state budget to address unexpected or increasing costs, et cetera. Specifically, why does NUSD need a strong reserve level? The potential reduction in state funding, which we still see that. Declining enrollment, we're seeing the impact of that, with the hold harmless protecting us for a couple of years, but we all saw the impact of that projected in 2022-23. Those increases in state mandated pension costs, the continued underfunding of federal mandates, as well as many factors. NUSD's budget reserve as a percentage of its overall general fund budget has decreased from about 22% to about 12.5% from 2011 to 2020. Over that same time period, the level actually has stayed, from a pure dollars, stayed pretty stable. But in terms of purchasing power and as a percentage of our budget, which obviously is key when looking at a lot of those factors, it's gone down by almost half. And where are we compared to statewide levels? We are below the state average and the state mean. and we're right about about 25% at the state's 25% quartile. So our current unofficial reserve target, this is not a minimum, but was 15% of expenditures. The government financial officer's recommendation is to have a minimum of 2 months regular revenues or regular expenses in reserve. And so in the November 3rd meeting, I brought forward a policy with some specifics. I'm going to go through them one more time and note the changes that were made. So the first is the reserve level is recommended to be 2 months of operating expenses, equivalent to 16.67%. The triggering event would be a fiscal emergency declared by the Board of Trustees. I think a fiscal emergency likely would have been declared by the Board of Trustees at budget adoption when the fiscal impacts of the COVID pandemic were starting to be known. The time period for which the fund balance will be used is no more than 1/2 of the reserve can be used in any 1 year. There would be a commitment to lowering district expenditures to adjust to new economic reality. This is done in the declaration of fiscal emergency, triggering a budget balancing process. And then also an important note is the time period over which a fund balance will be replenished and the means in which they will be replenished. So funds would be restored within 3 years of the end of the fiscal emergency. And here is the largest change in the proposed policy is we noted that the board will have to approve a declaration of the conclusion of the fiscal emergency, which would then trigger the 3-year repayment or restored nature of the fund balance. All right. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions on the form. The changes that were made since the November board meeting are in red, and they relate to the declaration of the end of the fiscal emergency and the trigger of the process, the beginning of the process to replenish that reserve. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board, Trustee Dale, Trustee Matt.
So, Yancy, I want to hear again the justification for limiting the maximum amount that can be withdrawn during declared, which I would assume the declared fiscal emergency shall not exceed half of the unrestricted reserves. I still think that's, I don't understand why we would limit ourselves. I explained this before, like if the house is on fire, you put the fire out. And if you're limited, if they turn the water off when you're halfway done putting out the fire, I think you're creating bigger problems. So I think it's reasonable to put some qualifications or exceptions or some cause to exceed maybe half, but I just see it as an arbitrary percentage, limiting a board from taking action during a fiscal emergency. And I just want some justification for how 1/2 of one fiscal can be used within one fiscal year is justified.
So the justification around only half being used in 1 year is a couple. The first is the look back at the items or the times that likely would have been included in fiscal emergencies, whether that's the current COVID pandemic, whether that's the Great Recession of 2009, whether that's the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s, or even all the way back to, kind of 92, 93 when we had the recession in the first Bush's term. None of those fiscal emergencies have lasted less than 2 years in terms of the impact. And the second, and so just knowing that and setting an expectation that when we're into the fiscal emergency, it's almost almost assuredly going to be a multi-year affair. The second is a lot of the specifics in this were looked at from the state's rainy day reserve. We used the state's rainy day reserve as well as a lot of other districts as the framework for looking at this. And the state's rainy day reserve includes this provision of only one half of it can be used in any one fiscal year. And that's one of the reasons that 2021, 2022, isn't as big of a cliff as we were first potentially looking at, is because the state was only able to use one half of that rainy day reserve in the first year. So, I mean, in a situation that is more of a fiscal emergency than that we've seen in the last 30 years, the board could always take action to nullify this and use more of the reserve if that's what they truly believed. But the justification is knowing that a fiscal emergency is likely going to last more than one and likely even more than two fiscal years.
That's the justification. I don't necessarily agree with that, you guys. I just think it forces us to make cuts elsewhere that we may not have to make based on this arbitrary percentage. And though the example set is something that was probably some compromise set forth by the legislature in Sacramento, I just can't imagine being in business and trying to deal with a fiscal emergency with this kind of arbitrary restraint. I need $56 to solve a problem, but I can only take $50 out of my reserve. So I would just argue that we would loosen that restriction somewhat. I maybe possibly some language around the effect that it has to pass some muster of some kind or another. But just because someone else made a poor decision with regard to this limit in Sacramento, I don't think that necessarily means that we should tie our hands. So that's really the only issue I have with this particular policy.
I'm wondering if maybe part of that, if I think about it, just pulling myself back, obviously we're going to have a really hard time anyway, is that we sometimes have a hard time forcing ourselves to make cuts or to do things because we don't want to do it. And so I think for me, if I look at the wording the way it is, maybe it's a way to say, we know this isn't going to be resolved short term, thinking of some of the stuff coming in front of us. So we have to make decisions now, knowing that we have that next year that we can help support us and continue building up. Because my bigger thing is paying it back. If we're in that much of a thing, I can't imagine even, I can't get past, okay, we make it through this thing, and then how do you get yourself to start paying it back? So I get more hung up on that side of those things. But again, just going back to, at least we have some money to look forward to the next year, and then we have to make decisions on how to get our feet on stable ground, and then having that additional amount later as a cushion for the future. So, I don't know if that helps or makes it.
I would stress that we probably would want to work harder on a competent plan that was designed to get us out. And I actually, acknowledge the political frustrations that we face when it comes to making serious adjustments to our budget. And we're in the circumstances that we're in right now because we've delayed cuts we should have made in prior years to satisfy our constituents to the best of our ability, knowing that the day would come we were going to have severe deficit spending problems. So I think the onus is on us to come up with a sensible plan. If we come up with a sensible plan, just to have this arbitrary limit there to make us, I guess my point, it just seems to like you're looking for some sort of self-imposed discipline when you don't even really know how you're going to solve the problem, but you have a self-imposed discipline on but you don't really, it doesn't seem to be for any other reason but self-imposed discipline. So I just think it's bad management policy. And I you know, I'm not gonna die on this hill. It's up to the board, of course, but I just think it's just an arbitrary restriction, and it could end up being more difficult when the time comes.
So the question to the board is, are there any other areas of concern? Are we ready? This is a second reading. Trustee Mann.
Two things. So really quick clarification. In terms of timing, it talks about years, but you know, timing is a little messy sometimes, right? It could be that we declare an emergency in March as opposed to nice and clean right at the beginning of the year. Talk me through how that plays out in this. Are we then tied to March of every year going forward, or are we talking about fiscal years?
So I would always recommend that we talk in fiscal years. So if we into March, so this year is a great example. In April, we knew there were going to be significant financial issues. So fiscal emergency would start for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. So that's where the emergency would start. And then as soon as, even if it was declared in, you know, say 3 years later after, you know, hopefully the impacts of COVID have gone away in our community and in our finances, and say in April of 2023, that then the 2023-2024 year would be the first year that would be included in the 3-year expectation of the repayment. So always by fiscal year.
Okay, so let's just play this out, because I think this, you know, we just live this, right? Came real close to it, state came through. So here we are in March. Let's say this has been already running. Let's say we had 17% reserve. Here we go. We declare in March, right? Okay, so that's going to impact us, like you said, Nancy, for the 2021 year, fiscal year, and at which point we're going to take half of that 17% reserve and use it. And then in the following year, 21, 22, we'll take the other half. And then after that, 22, 23, the 3 years following, we effectively have to have about a 5 to 6% savings rate per month to rebuild back. I get the 5 to 6% by taking two months divided by 36 months. Is that all right, Nancy? Am I doing that right?
That's pretty close, yeah.
So 5 to 6% for 3 years by month, or for every year. So this is to get into Diane's point, putting it back, which is no small feat. So I just want to talk through it all so all of us really understand what we're signing up for. I understand the need for it. Ross brought it up, Derek brought it up, and we have to do it, but do we have the ability to do this? And I do agree with Derek. I do agree that we need to have the flexibility, because it could very well be by fixing it in the first year, and we know what we're doing, we need to have the flexibility to do it. I mean, forcing us to spread it out into 2 years, we'll do that if that's what it turns out that we need. But I think we should have the ability to do it right, however it should be.
So my question is, except for that item that we're talking about, do you agree with the rest of this? Is this board getting to the point where at the end of the second reading, we're going to adopt this? If we adjust this, or do we want to come back for a third reading? That I'm trying to figure out where we are in terms of process.
So I have very little other issues with policy besides the hat limit.
Marie?
Yeah, no, I agree. Can we bring it back for a third reading and look at the language?
That's my question. Is should we, or should we finish the work tonight and have it done in the year 2020?
I'd rather do it right.
Well, do it right isn't necessary. We can do it right tonight.
Yeah.
Or
But if it changes so that we're not restricted.
Or maybe we just gauge where we all are on that one component. And I can go either way personally on that, and I would rather just.
I'm either way.
Yeah, either, I'm the same.
So-
I can see Derek's point, but I understand, I'm relying on Yancy as with this. Chris, what are you mind if I ask Superintendent Costa your thoughts on this?
You know, I understand the reasons behind Yancey's conservatism here, right? He's projecting a conservative approach that is aligned with good accounting practices. And, you know, I think you can make the case that there could be times when it ties your hands in a way that you don't want it to. You can also make the case that it will instill discipline, potentially, with a board that needs some discipline. You know, at the end of the day, this is the board's policy. And so I think we've got to decide which policy we think serves us in the most realistic future fiscal challenge we're going to face. One of the things we heard from our assistant superintendent is that these are typically multi-year processes or cycles. And so, you know, that's why he designed it the way he did. At the end of the day, I think it's the board's policy. And if you think that one way would serve the board better than the other, then we should go with that, and it'll be fine. This is one that there are some things that I have a passionate argument for one way or the other. This isn't one.
Well, I guess one thing to make clear, right, that Yancy said is that we could, if we adopt it as is, if we come to a point where you, like the situation you come up with saying, you know, there's a way to solve this by spending a little bit more, we can at that time, right,
We can nullify.
edit this or whatever we're going to do.
With the board, we can change the policy.
Right. So for that reason, I'm okay with going it as is, because I think we can address that. I don't know, what do you think, Eric?
Well, that's why I was saying earlier, you know, some language to the effect of not to exceed half without justification or exception or some other language, which I'm at a loss of to come up with tonight.
If we're going to adopt this tonight, my view is we need to get this done and move on to a whole lot of other very tough things that we have to deal with. And I would like to walk out of 2020 with this under our belt and done. It's been, in my opinion, decades in coming. So I would like, so I will take it I prefer it the way it is, but I'll take it either way. But I would like my opinion is we should adopt this tonight.
I'll move that we adopt it as is.
Okay, so
That's fine.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from trustee Butler. So now we have a motion to adopt it as is. First by Nell, second by Butler. Now we have the debate.
Is there a language?
Pardon me, first by Butler, second by Matt.
The other day.
My error. You guys look the same with the masks on. Careful.
Is there a language that you already?
So what I'll, you know, this is one of those situations where I think that I've explained it. It's my opinion. I'm a little hesitant to the part about justifying, well, if we get there, then we'll change it. That in itself defeats the purpose of the policy as a whole. So I don't actually support that. So if we're going to take this seriously, we have to take it seriously. Yeah. So I'm willing to adopt it. I think that it is something that I've been asking for a long time, that we do have something in place. It comes in handy to go to the manual or the operating manual when a bunch of disasters come up and everyone's coming to us for money and resources. So I've said my piece and I'll support it as is for the greater good of having a strict policy in place. But when the time comes, if this is the policy, I will probably be the one arguing that we stick to the book. So,
other comments? Other comments? If not, then I'll call for a vote for the adoption of the board policy 3100.1 fund balance reserve as proposed to us by the CFO. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, so, and your point's well taken.
Oh, it's a needed tool.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we didn't, so we're ready to move on to item B.
No tools.
Launching the 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee. Superintendent Koska is going to present a slide deck, and he has to be in his office to do that, so he's set up. So give him a minute, and he will show up on the screen, and I will turn the presentation over to him.
So Superintendent Koska, in his infinite wisdom, has all of this set up on the computer that doesn't have a camera. So I will start talking about this while I get it set up on another computer that does have a camera. So I will multitask.
This is go ahead.
So NUSD has decided that we need to do a thorough review of our facilities and their uses across our entire system. This started with a process that discussed only closing an elementary school, and we went from there to a process that was much broader and had us exploring how we're using every single facility on our campus, acknowledging that a potential outcome could be
Okay. We don't hear you.
Now I'm here. Now you can hear me and you can see me. We're getting closer.
No echo. Good.
We decided to move forward with a plan that would allow us to potentially close a school, to potentially use our facilities in a very different way. And so one of the ways that you can explore closing schools, that you can explore selling different district property, for example, is to conduct a 7-Eleven committee. And so tonight I am going to be, if I can ever get to it on my other computer, showing you a presentation on the 7-Eleven committee. Can anybody take a guess on how many people can be in a 7-Eleven committee?
7 or 11.
7 to 11.
There you go. So between 7 and 11 people. That's excellent. And
while you're doing that, is that I was curious why that it didn't say why it was called that. So it's literally how many people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the 7-Eleven is the number of people that must be on the committee. So now I am actually getting close. I appreciate all of your patience as I stumble through this.
Something's happening. Oh, recommendation to NUSD to launch.
Yes, we no longer have a failure to launch. Okay, so I'm bringing to you a recommendation to launch a 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee that after this will be called the 7-Eleven Committee. It has nothing to do with Slurpees or that cute little store on the street. This pertains to a number of important district goals. The biggest one is this affects our short and long-term fiscal responsibilities. Potentially tied into this idea is teacher housing, staff housing. So another goal that this achieves is attracting and retaining high-quality staff. And then obviously it helps us with our long-term assets and property planning. So the big question is, what does a 7-Eleven committee do? I talked a little bit about this, but really what a 7-Eleven committee does, it brings a group of representative community members together to advise the board based on input from these diverse community members on how we use our space. This is covered in Ed Code. This is a Brown Act compliant committee. So just like your board agendas are completed through Agenda Online, all of these 7-Eleven committee agendas will be online. They will be open, meetings that are open to the public. They will take place either in Zoom or in the district office, depending upon the timing of the meetings. There's a process, a formal process that we have to go through around starting a 7-Eleven committee. And it starts with you approving the committee tonight, hopefully, and then we have to select our committee. So to do that, we're going to start by soliciting applications from interested community members. And so on Thursday, should you choose to approve this committee, we will be sending out applications through many different avenues to make sure that we're targeting all the members of our community. Once the application window closes, district office staff will review all of the applications that we receive, and then we will make a recommendation to the governing board about who the 7 to 11, and we anticipate it'll be closer to 11, community members are. And then we'll also recommend alternatives for the committee, and then we will bring those to you for your approval. The 7-Eleven committee is supposed to be a committee that's representative of our community, and in the education code, it outlines the different groups that we have to make sure that we represent. And so the first bullet is kind of a little bit of a catch-all, but the committee needs to represent the ethnic, age, and socioeconomic composition of the district, so it needs to be representative of all those different groups. We need to make sure that members of the committee include business community members like store owners and managers and supervisors. We need to have landowners or renters, with preference being given to representatives of neighborhood associations. Teachers, and we're going to say and, not or, but teachers and administrators in our case, although the ed code says teachers or administrators. Parents of students in the district. People with expertise in these different building, housing related areas here in Novato. So we have our meetings are already scheduled in anticipation that you will approve this process. Of course, this can all be adjusted. The meetings, as I shared, will take place via Zoom or in the NUSD boardroom. The time will be 5:30 p.m. The meetings as scheduled currently are there, as you can see them. They run from February to May when we have an optional meeting. They run about every 2 weeks, give or take. So here are some of the important timelines associated with the 7-Eleven committee. We would bring the approval of the committee to you on January 26th. Getting towards the end, we could bring you, we have the option to bring you a draft review of the recommendations of the committee. That would be probably in the first May meeting or the last April meeting. And then the board would take action on the recommendations on May 18th. And with that, I ask if you have any questions. I do have Jennifer Gibb from King Consulting available to answer any questions that might just stump me tonight. So with that, I'll stop sharing screen. And I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
We've used King Consulting before, so I just want to recognize that they're familiar with our district. They know where to go get the information. I like that we've used them before and they're familiar with us. I think that's super helpful. They understand our community a little bit. It's obviously changed since they've been here a little bit, but I think that's the right direction. I like this approach, the 7-Eleven committee, and having a consultant take that lead for us. I think that's needed in all of these areas that we're going to be looking at. So I'm supportive of this.
Julie, and then Karen.
Yeah, can I just hear about the rationale behind that small number of members of the committee, considering the vast types of people we want to include in it?
When you need to make a decision about whether or not you want to sell district property, this is the regulation that we need to follow. Why the state agency decided between 7 and 11 is the right number, I can't say, but this is written into California law that this is the process that we need to follow. And they do their best to make it representative by making sure that there are all of those different categories covered. Beyond that, I can't really say why the legislation was written as it was.
So I have a couple comments. The first one is just to follow on with Trustee Butler's comments around King Consulting, and want to make sure I understand the purpose of this consultant is to provide the committee with objective facts.
Yeah, so they serve a number of different purposes in their support of us. One is making sure that we're staying compliant with all the processes, procedures. One of them is facilitation. But then there's a lot of other work that's going to be going on behind the scenes. And Jennifer, if you want to talk about some of the things that you and Rob and Jamie are working on, that would be great.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening to help you work through this process. One of the items that we'll be going through and analyzing in the back end and then bringing forth to the committee if you decide to go forward this evening is really reviewing your community demographics, understanding that in detail, so that we can then move on to, by those demographics, how does that impact your student generation? Where are those students going to be? Where do they live? And where do they go to school? Where do they matriculate to or migrate to, excuse me? Then really another component that we look at is your land use and potential development. Either what are you currently using the property for? What can it be for? What are other land uses in the area or future developments in the area? We're looking at it holistically as like that. Also looking at spatial analysis, again, understanding your community, how it's divided among its regions, and then where those kids go in the community. We also will be doing facility capacity analysis, understanding your current facilities, and then the assets that you have on those, what the use is, and how much room you have to grow or expand that current facility to understand the asset in general. So those are some of the items that we're going to be analyzing in the background, and then bringing that forward to the committee in those different sessions, not all at once, because it's a lot of information and data, but bringing it so that the committee understands they can really process the information, ask questions. We can come back as a team with the answers to those questions, and then move forward to the next step in the process to, in the end, help them come up with a decision to move forward for your district assets.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay. So, Chris, Marie's got some questions?
No, it's just, I don't have any questions, I just want to make a motion. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
So,
Well, so you want to make a motion and then if we get a second, then we'll get.
Yeah, I have a question. Go ahead.
so just like to make a motion that we adopt the launching of the 7-11 District Advisory Committee for NUSD.
So that's a motion. Do we have a second for this motion or not?
I'm prepared to second the motion. I just have a comment.
Okay, so Derek, Diane and Derek have some questions. And Greg, yeah.
So Chris, I actually appreciate and like this process or doing this. I wasn't aware of it, but what I like about it is that it captures a lot of elements that we've been looking at. And if this is a process that we need to do for enacting any of the things that we want to. I appreciate that you have, presented this as the way to go. Hugely interested in the teacher housing. Looking at the school closure, I think is appropriate. And then just our property use is just really important and good for our community to understand too. Touching on what Trustee Jacobson had just asked, and having been on the parcel tax for so long, and I don't think it's the case anymore, but there was a point in time where we had to have certain boxes filled. Like we had to have a business person, we had to have a parent in middle school. There was all these criteria, and I remember how challenging that was to fill all of those roles, and we kind of got away with that, or didn't do that in subsequent parcel tax measures. But one of the things I did realize, and I wonder if it would be applicable here, and not to pick on Sylvia Berry, but I think she would fall into several of these groups. So I would imagine like she's a business owner, a land person, and a homeowner's. I think she's still the president of this for Santa. So I assume that one person could take multiple roles. Okay, so perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. Derek, comment?
Yeah, two things. One, just briefly, I want to caution, when facilitators are also the ones that are providing the facts and figures in the report. I think that as long as the system is one where there's, for public record, their ability to submit additional information to the committee through the facilitator if necessary. But I just wanted to make sure that the only source of information doesn't come from the facilitator. I think it's two different things that we're talking about. And if other members of the committee or other individuals of the public want to submit either an interpretation and analysis of the same facts in a different way, or provide other information than what the facilitator has provided, I think that's reasonable. And so maybe we're approving this tonight. I'm very anxious to get this started, but I haven't had a chance to review this consultant's contract, and I'm not really sure what I appreciate Trustee Butler's endorsement, but I do have some due diligence that I think we have not accomplished yet. So is this an action we're expecting to pass tonight?
It is. So it seems to me that if we have some constraints we want to apply to the consultant who's on the call, yes, they're listening, we can certainly ask them how they're going to approach this, and maybe we can clarify this well enough for you to be comfortable. So here she is.
So I'd like to make a couple of comments. Is that
I have something else, other something.
Okay. The purpose of approving the 7-Eleven committee isn't to approve the consultant contract. You actually approved the our ability to seek out a consultant when we did our facilities review. And so really what you're doing tonight is approving the 7-Eleven committee, not the contract. The contract is something that we're working on with Yancey. You guys will see the contract if it's above a certain threshold that would come to the board, and there's a potential that it wouldn't come to the board. I don't remember the exact dollar amount. So I do want to keep separate that tonight we're not approving the contract with the consultant. Tonight we're approving the 7-Eleven committee. And you actually have approved for us to work with with a consultant on this work previously. Yancey, you have something to add to that?
No, I apologize. I was in Nancy's office going over something, and I heard my name, so I came in.
Nancy, we're talking about the contract for King Consulting, and if that'll come to the board, or if that's below the threshold to come to the board.
At this point, it's under the threshold to come to the board, and the board has already approved us moving forward with that. And so it was included in the first interim budget adjustments. So it's already included.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're not talking about the dollar amount. We're talking about the work that's going to be done by the facilitators. That's what I'm talking about. And what I'm hearing from the superintendent is we're not actually approving that tonight.
Right.
Or I'm hearing from the CFO that it's under the threshold, which, by the way, we can go down lower if we want to go down lower.
We certainly
So
could.
So I just wanted clarification between the two of you. Are we approving a contract tonight, or are we just approving the 7-Eleven?
Tonight, we're approving the 7-Eleven committee. That's the recommendation.
And I'll look forward to receiving more information on King Consulting, their contract, and what the work that they're proposing.
We're happy to provide the board. Happy to provide the board with information about the King Consulting contract.
Greg, Derek, you want to finish, and then we'll go to Greg?
Well, I'm going to go to a different subject.
I had a different subject. Please go ahead.
Well, yeah, going back to the presentation, I just think when Superintendent Koska brought up the purpose, and then we listed some district goal budget or district goals, I think an important thing is missing here. I think we ought to add equity to this. I think that we heard earlier tonight a request that we take on consideration for anti-racist resolution. We talked tonight about the budget, and if you looked at the big part of our budget, our supplemental funding and concentrated grant funding that we're supposed to be spending on students of particular need. So in order to serve these students well, we need resources, which is a bureaucratic term for money. And when I see this committee being formed for the purposes of getting out from underneath our deficit and freeing up funds to be used in a concentrated way on these particular, for example, I think it's important that we amend the district goals of this particular report, and I'm sure that without objection of the superintendent, that we add equity as a goal to this committee's purpose.
I agree.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We have a second. So I think you're making a request to change the motion to include.
No. Well, we don't need to change the motion. Okay. I just think that I suspect there will be no objection.
Right.
It's part of the scope.
Number one purpose.
It goes to the scope.
So I don't see need to change the motion. I appreciate the question.
I just want to make sure we're responsive to your concern. So, Trustee Matt.
So just a quick question about the 7-Eleven committee, Chris. So let's hope we have a resounding response. We have much more candidates than we can take. What's the process for combing through them and all that? Who's going to do that?
So that would be an executive cabinet responsibility. We anticipate that we could have excess of 100 interested candidates. That would be a great gift to us to be able to parse through that and find ones that we think best the technical goals, but the moral goals of the 7-Eleven committee. And then we would bring that recommendation to the board. So there would probably be as many as 11 members and then probably up to 4 alternates.
So the plan is we advertise a whole bunch of people, more than we need apply. The staff goes through and develops a recommendation that's compliant with the requirements. That recommendation then goes to the Board of Trustees, and the board appoints the seats and the alternates. It's a board-appointed committee. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess it's safe to say we're going 11. I mean, just so many bases we're trying to cover. And then to Derek's point about equity, I'd like to see us maximize.
I anticipate that the recommendation would be 11.
There you go. Thank you. And then the last question, it's more of a comment. We've had committees like this in the past, and they've been very helpful, very useful for very important issues. But at times, they almost seem to be led to a conclusion. And I really want to ensure that we allow the consultant to facilitate and let these folks come up with their recommendations. Because I really want us to be presented with what the committee really, really saying. And I'm not, making any kind of implication of any kind, but I just really want to make sure we try to be as open as you can to let these folks speak and not have us guide them in how or we want them to think.
This will not be a behind doors process. This will be a very, very public process. One of the questions, to come back to Trustee Jacobson's question about, 7 to 11 representatives, that doesn't mean there's 7 to 11 community members giving input. There will be opportunities for folks at the meetings, community members to be there and have voice. So if you think about it right now, we have a meeting going on with 7 people representing our entire community. That committee is not all that different than this, right? It's bound by the same rules and regulations, same processes. So, there will be an opportunity for even broader representation than just the committee. But at the end of the day, it's going to be those 11 people who are responsible for making the recommendation that comes to the board.
Is it appropriate to hear from Jennifer about this at all right now, since we have her?
Yeah.
About her approach and or this concern?
Sure,
What specific? I'm happy for Jennifer to talk about whatever she feels appropriate. I just want to make sure I understand the question or the request.
On process and or oversight, and the concern was if it would be guided at all and that the data was coming all from one place.
Is this, how does the 7-Eleven committee work in general? Is that sort of a question?
Or how does King Consultants facilitate this type of work?
Take it away, Miss Gibb.
Thank you, Superintendent Koska. We definitely support the board's initiative that you're speaking to right now, that it is really data-driven conversations, not guided by any one staff member or, quote unquote, hidden goal of the district, right? I think that's why our approach is so great. The first meeting that we would facilitate with staff and the committee, as well as the community involvement that Chris has stated, would be just understanding organizational meeting, setting up the committee, helping them understand their role, and then the process going forward so that they understand and are allowed to take ownership in this process, to be able to really work through all the data that they're going to be given, the facts that we find based on your community demographics, enrollment, asset, properties, all the things that I already mentioned, right? Bringing all the data together and then helping them to understand the data. They're able to ask questions. We provide the answer feedback, again, based on data, not our opinion. And then to the point of, is outside data allowed to come in from other sources? Absolutely. It's run just like a board meeting. There's public comment. There's items that are given to the committee. If somebody submits a public item for review of the committee and they'd like a report or EIR or their own demographic analysis that they've done, that gets submitted to the committee for their review. So yes, we're doing our own data analysis of all the items that I listed, but if there's if someone in the community has a piece of data or documents that they want to share, absolutely, the committee is allowed to have that and process it in their own way. So that's pretty much our approach. We really want to be data-driven, and allow the community and the committee to make the decision to recommend to you what they come up with.
Thank you.
That answer your question? Good. Okay.
Good question.
Okay, so do we have any more discussion? Are we ready to approve the 7-Eleven committee?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, we have a first and a second. The first was by Marie, the second was by Neil.
Call the question.
Call the question. Here we go. All in favor? 7.
Let's do it.
0. Okay, we're finished with item D. We're moving into item 17E, approval of resolution number 13, 2020-21, exemption to the separation from service requirement for scalping. Derek, was this where you had the additional item?
Yeah, I was just proposing that, and I appreciate the board's patience in allowing me to pull the item and marry it to our own decision. Basically, the consent agenda was us having oversight over the charter school to allow this exemption to take place, only to have us discuss it later and make a formal adoption. So I just figured that why we did our own, we might as well do theirs at the same time. Being a fiduciary for the people of Nevada and having oversight over this particular charter school is important to all of us. And it just seems like we ought to walk our own talk and do it at the same time. So.
My understanding, and I'm going to ask the superintendent, is that charter school has already approved their resolution and we're overseeing them and concurring in theirs. Where in our case, we are making, we're the original finding, we're making the original finding. So I'm going to let the superintendent explain the difference, and then we can take them separately.
It's fine to do them both in open session. From a legal technical perspective, one of them needs to be done in open session. The other one can be done via consent. And as President Miller shared, the board of the charter school has already taken action on this process. And as their chartering agency, we have to approve it. There is a regulation that the initial approval by the board has to happen, by their board has to happen in public session. That has happened. For us, there's no requirement that it happen in public session, but it can. So it can be on consent or it can be in public. And so however we want to do it's fine.
So I prefer that we just do them together to be consistent. So again, I appreciate your board's patience with I support the exemption.
So
I regret having to be in the situation.
So we're going to do them both right now, but let's take item 17E, 17E resolution number 13-2021, and I need a motion for that and a second.
So I'm prepared to move the exemption.
Okay, so Derek moves and second is Marie, and all in favor, this is the district's motion, 7-0. And then right after that, we're going to consider the approval of the Nevada Charter School Resolution 2021 exemption separation from service. And it's not the same resolution number, but that's its title. So we're going to approve it and with its correct title. So I need a motion to approve it.
I move we accept the recommendation to approve the oversight of the charter.
Then a second, Marie saying all in favor. Right, so it's the same behavior, 7-0. Okay, so those are taken care of. Thank you, Derek, for bringing that together. And so now we're down to, we have two items left. Item F, approval of employment agreement for the interim assistant. And then we have one item from consent. Superintendent, you want to speak?
All right. Assistant Superintendent Ferrer is going to talk us through the contract for interim Assistant Superintendent Larson.
Thank you, Superintendent Koska. Good evening, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Before you is a recommendation to approve the employment agreement for an interim Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. As you know, assistant superintendents are contracted employees with their contracts presented to you for approval. Our current Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services is resigning from the district effective December 31st. The district thanks and appreciates Dr. Amy Carter for her leadership and service and wish her the best in her next professional endeavor. In order to ensure a smooth transition and continuity of instructional services and leadership, the district recommends our current Director of Student Success, Jennifer Larson, be appointed with your approval to the position of Interim Assistant Superintendent, Educational Services for at least through June 30th, 2021, effective January 1st, 2021. The district will formally begin its search for a contracted Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services in February. The district recommends approval of this item. I can take any questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
Remember? Yeah.
I have a comment. I'm gonna support the recommendation, and I will move that we go ahead with the interim position. And what I I want to caution the board that we are looking at some pretty severe deficits and some uncertainty around our budget planning, as reported earlier in the meeting. So I guess what I want to know is how quickly do we need to go out and start an official search? How long can we work on an interim basis to prevent disruption? Probably through the rest of the school year, but if this position were to become something discussed as a budget item, maybe we shouldn't be racing to replace it in its entirety.
Since you made a motion, can I get a second, then we can discuss? Debbie?
Yeah, I'll be the second.
Yeah. Okay, so Derek, you want to continue your discussion?
So as I understood it from the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, that we are going to approve this and the approval of this interim contract, but we're also going to start a search for a permanent replacement. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct.
Trustee Nell, the district's intention is to start that process in February, which is the most opportune time for administrative positions. We will start our search for that position and hopefully identify a candidate that could start with us effective July 1st, 2021.
One of the things we need to consider in developing our timeline for filling this position is dominoes. We have a strong stable of candidates internally for positions related to education services in particular. Searches take between 2 and 3 months to conduct, to do a good search. And we are going to do good, thorough searches for all these positions. There's nothing been promised other than an interim position. If we start in mid-February, we conduct a search for this position. Let's say we finish that March, April. We finish that, mid-April. Let's say hypothetically, Director Larson is hired. Now we've got to fill a director position. We start that process for the director position in April. That takes us into June. And now let's say we hire a principal to take that director position. Now we've got to have some time to find that principal position. We could certainly put this off. We could certainly have it become part of our budget process. I would caution us against that. I would remind everyone of the cuts that we have made in this building, the cuts that we have made to our ed services team that at a high watermark had 8 teachers on special assignment, now has 2. We've cut the coordinator in charge of student services. We cut another coordinator. We can continue to cut any department in this district, but what we can't do is expect a high quality, a level of excellence, us to continue to move forward towards achieving the lofty goals that we continue to expand and that we expanded tonight. That anti-racism resolution, significant increases in workload over the next year for our education services team. This isn't stuff we can dump on the sites. Hey, you know what it is? It is stuff we could dump on the sites, but there would be an impact for that. So, we can have this be part of the process. We can have an interim in that position for the next 1.5 years. It wouldn't be my recommendation. I think we've cut as deep to the bone as we can in this department. No matter how far we cut, there's going to be people that say we need to cut more in this building because, frankly, people don't understand what we do in this building. So yes, we could absolutely wait. That'll be up to the board to direct us on when we fill that position. It's staff's recommendation that we start the search process in February.
Mr. President, you left out that the administrative employment group were the only ones that took furloughs, and I think that that should be acknowledged as that's the only group that sacrificed pay to help with the budget situation. So, so my point is, trustees, that I support the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of HR resources in proceeding with this interim position and going out as soon as possible to replace the assistant superintendent position, because I think it's the prudent, wise, and consistent thing to do. However, I don't want to just have that be on autopilot. I think we've got some budget issues, but in this particular case, this is probably the right thing to do. So I'm going to move the recommendation.
You've already moved, I got a second. So if there's any other, no more comment, we'll vote. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, we're down to item 18, H. Diane, we pull this off. You want to-
Hey, Mike.
This is construction contingency for the Arts Center.
Yeah. I know I'm your favorite person on this, and I was reflecting on it all and to all the trustees. I think part of it stems from being involved in the whole process way before you came on board and before I sat here. And so sometimes when I look at this, it's also reflective, I think, of the community. I would say I speak for the community, that when we sat in those meetings about all that we could have at our schools and all the the way that it was structured, it was all well intended, but it fell flat for a lot of the community, for a lot of us that supported the bond. So I kind of take comments or do things because I still remember all that, and it's not anybody's fault now. It's just how it was originally, and we've had some challenges in terms of the economy or the conflict with China and trade wars, and then just COVID and just all these other things. So I think that that's all understandable, but we're still, when we're looking at all these things, I'm trying to put it together all in one piece. And so when I saw this, I'm not necessarily opposed. I mean, I want us to be able to finish our projects and do them well. I mean, because the last thing that we should do is do a project and then either take corners on it or not get it fully completed. But when I take all these individual instances, and the reason I wanted to ask about this is that the fields at San Marin were $2 million over, and my understanding was that some of that was the overage would be covered because we were under budget on some other things, and that there would be favorable terms for the bond. And so, okay, we can find that, and the other projects could move along. When I was looking at this, I wasn't entirely clear on it seemed to me like we're going to be shorting, I have to pull it up, so are we cutting things that people would want to make the site functional and what it needs to be? Because I say that in the context too, that sometimes what happens is we set something up and then the PTAs are responsible for, doing the trims of the equipment or whatever. So I wanted to understand that a little bit, and not necessarily right now, because what I was thinking is I still don't even know how far are we with the San Marin High School Performing Arts Center and the other projects in the timeline. So I was going to request that maybe when we come back in January, if it was possible, have a summary of where we are on all of these to better understand, so we're not constantly pulling money from different little places, just to get a better overall picture.
Sure, absolutely. We can get on the schedule and do a facility project update in the first of the year. Just to clarify, Trustee Gasson, we are not pulling money from any other project or any other program already allocated. We are going to use the developer fee to help offset furniture costs that we did have, or that we were paying for by the project, that now will be covered by developer fees, and that frees up some money. And then we're moving internally within the Center for the Arts project between the different object codes, some additional funds. So it's still within the same project. It's just an internal transfer to cover the construction contingency. So I just want to be clear, we are not taking from another project or another allocation.
Right, I meant that in the context of the other one, but it looked like some equipment, I can't see with my glass. I don't know how people.
The furniture, is that talking about the furniture?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're not taking away that we're not going to have some, or I guess the other thing is too, is the scope of work. I mean, I feel like it was just a little blurb and I wasn't understanding exactly. And again, it's more about all the projects and things that, we, it was great. You guys found some places where we can cover the contingency, but are we shorting the facility for certain equipment or, again, it was more, could we, if the board would like to, or was also interested in it, I personally would want to see something more understanding where we are on projects, what is left, and, when are we going to do the redo over at Olive, just more of a, this is one little blip, not a blip, but like a little window of this thing, and then I just don't have them all together to understand. And I think we owe it to the community just to make sure that they understand where we're going and what we're doing.
Absolutely. We definitely will get on the schedule and put that presentation together for you.
So I guess the question to Chris is putting together just a summary of where we stand. Report on appropriate can you do in January, February's plan?
I'm supportive with whatever best serves the board. We could do it in a couple of different ways. Mike has in the past created documents that shared it with you. If that's the right way to do it, we can do it as a presentation to the board. Whatever best meets the needs of the board, we're happy to do as long as Mike can do it on the timeline.
We have a vacancy on the set of bond. Tom was part of it with me and Derek. You should join us. And now you'll get a very clear picture of what's going on. I advise that.
I think there's value if there's open questions for the community here. I think
and actually,
her role as a trustee isn't mitigated by her having any subcommittee.
No, I get that. Yeah, I just think that would help you.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I think too, I reached out to Sylvia because I knew she was on that. I think part of what is going on for me is that making sure that they have some insight or, I mean, they're at the other end where they approve or make sure that the money was spent where it was, but not in advance. Like, are we seeing what we're moving through? And she didn't even know about tonight. So I just want to make sure that, about the shortage for the contingency and the difference over at Nevada High with the, what's the piece?
It sounds like you're asking a bigger, sort of, is the board thing asking staff, we should have staff do this periodically. I just don't want to do it every month.
Right.
I want to do it in a way that's efficient. So let them do their day job while they're preparing the reports.
So here's what I would suggest, that in January, we'll bring a report to the board of where we are on our project.
In January works.
And I don't know if it'll be first meeting in January or second meeting in January, but we'll give Mike the authority to be able to meet a timeline that allows him to bring you the best quality report that meets the desired need of the trustees.
Does that work?
Yeah, no, and in the meantime, Mike, how far are we on the Performing Arts Center at San Marin?
San Marin Performing Arts Center is probably 90%, 95% complete. We just currently waiting on last minute cabling with some of the theater specific equipment, and the theater seats are due to arrive on site next week for installation over the following 2 weeks. And we're looking probably the end of January to have that completely wrapped up.
I think a January report works well for us all. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. So do you want to move approval of this particular item since you're the one that pulled it?
Sure.
It was 18H.
Yeah, 18H. Move to approve the increase to the construction contingency for the Center of the Arts at Nevada High School.
All in favor? Do I need a second? Marie, second. All in favor? 7-0. We have 2 meetings scheduled in January. That's our last item for this evening. We have 2 meetings scheduled in January. January 12, 6 p.m. Closed session, and January 26, 6 p.m. closed session. And with that, we're done with the meeting. We're going to adjourn. Everybody good? Good job, President.